Hey everybody, you are tuning in to the Canary Cry News Talk live stream, pre-stream. We're going to get the show going in just about a minute, a little over a minute. But I want to say a big old congratulations to Andrea Garcia over on YouTube for being the first comment of the day. Your check is in the mail, Andrea. Okay, folks, a couple of reminders. If you haven't done so yet, you're going to want to follow us on multiple platforms. That includes youtube.com/CanaryCryRadio, twitch.tv/CanaryCryRadio. We're also on DLive and Periscope and, I don't know, all the cool stuff. So make sure to follow us there. You never know when we're going to disappear from your favorite YouTube channel or wherever you're watching this now. Also, always a good reminder, stay hydrated. It's good for you. Keep everything flowing the way it needs to flow. Okay, sorry everybody. And yeah, let's start the show.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is March 22nd, 2021. This is episode 314, and today, Embryo of the Beast. That's right, and I don't know, I'm not an embryo, but I am your best buddy, Basil.
And I am your resident AMP, that is Asian American Millennial Podcaster.
Ooh.
And welcome to the podcast. My name is Gonz, where we praise Jesus while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. Basil, I need you to refresh your video. You are transparent.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Yeah, I need
refreshing
a little
video. We're still working out some of the tweaks with the new tech setup, but that's okay. The show must go on.
There he is.
Well, happy Monday, Gonz. We made it through another weekend.
We did. It was very
you do
eventful.
Anything exciting?
I did, actually. Today is actually, it's a lot of things, but among the more nefarious things today is my daughter Kaya's birthday. She turns 4.
Oh, cute.
4 years since she was born. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Goes by quick. So we did a little family get-together yesterday, and she got to open presents, and it was a good time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Good times. Good times. Yeah, no cat birthdays over on this side. In fact, it was kind of refreshing to have an uneventful weekend. I think a lot of people can agree with that.
I actually also had to go to a kimono dresser. The wife is doing some family photos, and I will be in my traditional garb.
Ooh, I like this.
Yeah, we did it before we got married in 2008. So this will be the first time doing it since then. I didn't
you're wearing like traditional palatial regalia in a kimono?
Yeah. It's like a whole deal.
Does your wife wear one?
Yes. Everybody in the family.
Do you have a sword?
You know, I'm going to ask for one just to make the pictures worth it.
I feel like you should have a sword. It just seems like, if you're going to get the kimono, I got to say, as someone who I think appreciates Japanese culture as much as any white kid who liked anime could appreciate Japanese culture, I didn't know you needed to get a kimono fitted. I thought it was kind of one of those one-size-fits-all situations. Oh,
no. You have to be fitted, especially, the Japanese people are not very large people. They're very petite people. Yeah. So I had to. It was funny because the gal who's doing my thing, she brought out 3 or 4 different sizes, and she looks at the size 31, and she looks at me and she goes, no, and then 32, she goes, no. Of course, size 33.
33 is your kimono size?
And she's, yes, this is it. And she said I'm the size of a bear, which I don't know what that means. I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of like a manly compliment, I think.
I guess. It's not a compliment in Japan, I'll tell you that. My mother tells me how fat I am every time I see her.
Oh,
and
size 33 kimono. Yeah. That is a core piece of Canary Cry canon. Everybody needs to commit to memory right
know.
now.
The other part of it is she said, "Are you gonna shave your beard?" And I said, "I'll trim it." And she goes, "Trim? Oh no, shave."
Like, this is the kimono lady?
Yeah.
Oh, she doesn't like it, huh?
No, because it covers I guess the fold over at the chest is an important piece of showing the under layers of the kimono or something. I don't know.
You mess up the whole ritual.
Yeah, I don't know.
Beard.
But apparently within a month or so I will be clean shaven for a couple days. I made a deal. I said I will shave, but then I will not touch my facial hair for 8 months. The rest of 2021.
Deal. Master negotiator. That's so. Look, I don't need to spend too much time on this, but this kimono place, is it strictly a kimono place? Like, is it a fancy, specific place, or is it like Gentleman's Warehouse?
No, it's
kimono section.
It's a specific store. It's out in Pasadena, California. And it's a lady from Japan, and it's like a whole little shop. It's small, but
wow. You can rent. That's like what they do. That's all they do.
Basically, yeah.
Or similar traditional Japanese things.
Yeah, some traditional stuff. I think they just merged with a hairdresser, so one side of the shop is hairdressing, and the other side is more kimono dressing. Wow. So yeah, it's a cool little deal.
Now, not to make anything too intense at the top of the show, though, but was there any talk about the danger that Asian Americans are in? Was there like a vibe being in such a Asian-centric business?
No.
Okay. Well,
except me going, have you felt all the discrimination? But other than that, no.
Gotta stick together.
You have to stick together. Where's my katana?
Wow. Well, that's fun. That sounds like a fun thing. Okay. Yeah. Real quick before we get too far, just want to remind everybody, if you haven't done it yet, please hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications.
Yo, hold on. Where that
like, subscribe, bell button, all. Like, subscribe, bell button, all.
That was weird. I had my mouse. My mouse moved on me.
Oh, I know the feeling.
Yeah, it's a magical mouse.
Yeah, make sure to do that. We want to get as many likes and subscribes going at the front part of the show. You got to front load it, and that convinces the algorithms to share the show. So thank you very much.
And
I don't know if I'm going to make the French algorithms a permanent thing, but I'm having fun with it for now.
I think it's going to be permanent.
Until they
whether
bring
you like
back
it or not.
Pepe Le Pew.
Until there's a jingle, which there might be. I think it's going to be a thing. Also, if you are an owner of the Canary Cry calendar for the calendar year of 2021, you would know that today is UN World Water Day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Raise
Is
awareness
that the most
about
important
water.
Thing on March 22nd?
No, not really, but it's today for those of you who care.
What does this mean? Just celebrating water?
Well, just clean water for all, and make sure people get water. And everybody watch Waterworld tonight. Kevin Costner.
Yeah, stay hydrated. Watch Waterworld. Did I tell you I watched Waterworld like only a couple weeks ago?
No, but your green screen. You're doing the green screen thing again, so I need you to fix your video again. This might be an ongoing issue.
Doing it? Yeah, I didn't do anything, but
I know.
Refresh it.
I know you're not doing it. It's my end, but I can't do anything about it. You have to refresh.
Okay.
The other thing is today marks 40 years since the opening of the Georgia Guidestones.
Oh, It's an actual, that's a big anniversary, 40 years.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they announced the opening of the Georgia Guidestones on March 22nd. The 322 Skull and Bones.
Yeah.
And, March 22nd, 1980 was the opening date. So it was 40 years. And, of course, population control, eugenics, internationalism, the object of controversy and conspiracy theories.
Yes. I wonder if they're doing like a little celebration there. The Georgia Guidestones are obviously reminiscent of like Stonehenge and any number of those sort of megalithic or monolithic. I don't know which one it is.
Megalith.
Ancient structures. Maybe there's like a little pagan festival going on there.
If it happened this morning, probably, as the sun rose and aligned with the stones and the dirt or something. Yeah.
I'm going to just do a quick little search.
Yeah,
Georgia Guidestones celebration.
Yeah. Well, that and the Dark Clouds Over Elberton documentary with Chris Pinto and Dr. Future, they uncover who's behind the Guidestones. And I don't think they get enough credit for uncovering that.
Yeah.
There's a Rosicrucian man, and you can watch the documentary. They basically give it away. It's the R.C. Christian, who that guy actually was. But online, all you see is the mystery continues. Nobody knows who built it, and it's like, I feel like we uncovered it, but
we definitely know who built it.
Yeah,
it wasn't that. It's only 40 years old. The bulldozer tracks were still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Another example of, Canary Cry News Talk show days falling on important days in 2021.
Absolutely.
It continues.
Yep. And before we move on, just going with the theme here, I know you've been doing all your Marvel watching. I hear you're a Marvel fan. A little fanboy.
Oh, you've heard.
You're gonna get
my
like
reputation precedes me.
You're gonna get like Marvel tattooed across your chest, is what I hear.
No,
that's
in our line of work, Gons, you need to know a little bit about a lot of things. And yes, I've recently watched. I don't know. Well, all Marvel.
Right. Well, I was. It was funny because I'm kind of there were people messaging us saying like, "Hey Basil, you should watch the new thing, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 1. What is the title of the episode?
A New World Order.
A New World Order. It's the name of the episode.
Yeah,
episode 1.
They did not pull any punches on this one. It was chock-a-block full of fun little references that Canary Cry listeners and adjacent community members will be very familiar with.
And I have a couple audio clips from the dialogue. Here's the first one.
You see these guys? These are the guys you got to worry about. I've been stumbling onto their manifestos on message boards. They call themselves the Flag Smashers.
Was that a new thing? Bad guys give themselves bad names?
There's a lot worse names than that one. Basically, they think that the world was better during the blip.
Trust me, every time something gets better for one group, it gets worse for another.
Yeah, essentially, these people, they want a world that's unified without borders. So you can see why a lot of people are into that.
There you go. A world without borders.
And, a little switcheroo, though. This is, what did they call them? The Black Smashers?
The Flag Smashers.
Flag Smashers, right. So they make the Flag Smashers, the no borders, no rules, no borders folks. They kind of frame them as the Q types.
Right.
The online message boards. So they do a little switcheroonski there. What other clips you got?
I do gotta ask you though, because like online, there's just been a lot of stuff about Steve. Actually, crazy conspiracy theories. Some people, they think that he's in the secret base on the moon, looking down over us.
Well, I can assure you, those people you don't have to take seriously.
But you didn't like fly him to the moon?
Nah.
Yeah, so he denies that Steve is on the moon looking down on us.
Captain America is not on the moon base.
You know, that makes me think that that's going to be part of the plot. That'll be kind of the twist
Yeah, that made me think, oh, he's definitely on a moon base.
Definitely on the moon. And he's counting Bitcoin on the moon is what he's doing.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of really interesting things in this. Well, first of all, I'll just give sort of a surface level review.
Okay.
I'm going to continue to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but the first episode was you kind of got to work for it. You know, there's like a lot of like the Winter Soldier. He's going to like a really bad therapist, and you basically spend 15 minutes in a therapy session, was just kind of excruciating. And then Falcon is like fighting with his sister half the episode with like no point, just no avail, just sibling anger, which had almost no point to it. I don't know. They're just laying down the emotional foundation for the show. But because now, for those who are not Marvel people, the last Marvel movie, or set of movies, Infinity War and Endgame, there's a big apocalyptic event. They call it the Snap, where half of the universe's population, but half of the world's population vanished. And it had a very, growing up Christian, especially in the circles that I did, it was very reminiscent of like
the Rapture.
The Rapture, yes. It was basically the Left Behind movies suddenly happened in Marvel, which is just an interesting sort of allusion to draw. But then later, 5 years later, they undo the snap and everybody comes back. But so half the world's population was missing for 5 years. And in this episode, Falcon, who I believe was one of the ones who has disappeared, is trying to get a loan at a bank, and they're laying very heavily on the, like, he's a black man trying to get a loan from a bank, and they're always trying to keep the black man down. But the banker was like, you have no income history for the past 5 years, so we can't give you a loan. He's like, yeah, I got snapped. I was gone. I didn't exist. It's like, oh, sorry, we can't get you the loan. But it kind of had a vibe of lockdown, coronavirus lockdowns, because, you've got a huge population of the United States and the world who were basically forcibly put out of work. Mm-hmm. And, many people had no income for an entire year. And I could kind of see this being a little reminiscent of some issues people might be having, trying to get loans or trying to, figure out their banking. If you show no income for a year, it's pretty hard to participate in the traditional banking system. So there's a couple little nods like that throughout the whole thing. But yeah, otherwise, I'll keep watching it. We'll see what happens.
State-sponsored propaganda machinery.
That's what it is.
Right. All right. Well, I think we should start the show. What do you think?
Sleepy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Okay, so for those who are new to the show, let me let you in on a little secret. Flippy is the colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about Flippy to explore all the new and exciting ways that robots and AI are taking over the world, and there's nothing we can do about it. Today, I'm taking an article from Futurism.com, and the headline is, "The maker of M&Ms built a robot to chase you around the store with candy." Dun, dun, dun. Anytime there's a story about robots chasing people, we got to keep up with it. The article reads like this: "As if avoiding impulse purchases at the grocery store wasn't hard enough, the company behind M&Ms has created an autonomous robot that follows you around as you shop for groceries to tempt you with candy. The Mars Inc. candy company developed the robot nicknamed Smiley. if there was any more ominous of a name for a robot that would stalk you, Smiley, that's the tip of the pyramid right there. To follow shoppers around and offer them snacks long before they reach the checkout line, according to Gizmodo. The robot uses a variety of sensors to get around the store and approach potential customers with candy. Then there's a video there. Gathering data for the robot uprising. Futurism understands me. Smiley wasn't just made to sell candy, though. The robot is also gathering valuable data about customer interactions. It uses its sensors to watch how shoppers go about the store and interact with specific products, reports Gizmodo. This data can help store owners create a better shopping experience. Don't worry, folks. This is to better your shopping experience for their customers in the future and sell more products as a result. So far, Mars has only released one Smiley for testing at a ShopRite grocery store in Monroe, New York. If both ShopRite and Mars find it successful, though, we might see an entire army of Smileys being unleashed on stores throughout the world. Who knew our cyberpunk dystopia would be less cybernetic augmentations and flying cars and more creepy robots that stalk you while you try to buy groceries? So there you go. Pretty self-explanatory. No longer is the impulse buying zone limited to being in line at the cash register, but now it's going to be following you around. And this is funny because they obviously just wanted to spy on customers. But they use the candy to sort of lure customers in and make it less spooky. You know, obviously the ultimate goal of this thing is not just to sell more candy bars, but to monetize data of shopping habits and people walking around the store. But, you know, I just thought it was another angle to the robot uprising that not only are they here to spy on our every move, but, you know, remember what your mama said. Don't let a strange robot offer you candy and follow you around.
That was what I was going to say. There's the saying, don't take candy from strangers.
Yeah.
And there's actually a whole backstory to that. It comes from a story from 1874. Where
1874.
Yeah, where little
that's
Charles,
much earlier than I would have expected.
Yeah, little Charles Brewster Ross and his older brother Walter Lewis Ross were hanging out, and a couple people came on a carriage and offered the boys candy and fireworks if they rode in the carriage.
Ooh, and, fireworks. Yeah. That's another story.
Yeah, and of course they were kidnapped, and there was a ransom and the whole deal. But yeah, that's where it comes from. And of course, you know, the more recent sort of connotation, or not the connotation, but the iteration of the don't take candy from strangers is more to do with the either the pedophile or the rapist type of situation, especially with kids, more of the pedo thing, which makes me uncomfortable that they name this thing Smiley. You know, it's like extra weird.
Very ominous.
Yeah. You know, above everything else, chasing you around the store, taking data, offering candy. At least he's selling the candy, not giving it to you for any kind of exchange. Although, you know, that would be a way to get more data. Like, hey, I'll give you extra candy if you give me your fingerprint or something, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Make it a bio data thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people would do it. They would love to, you know, thankfully, especially Canary Cry folk and others around the world are realizing that, yeah, nothing's free. You're paying with your data in one sense or another. But yeah, I mean, the other thing is if you consider being around the cash register as like the impulse buy zone, economically, this makes the entire store an impulse buy zone. And in a time when we're all, you know, fighting for self-control, this is another example of robots, you know, increasing the ability to lose control and just eat candy wherever you stand in the shopping place, which seems harmless and doesn't seem like a big deal. But in the bigger trend of robotics and AI, you know, increasing comfort levels to the detriment of our mental and physical health. When you fit it into that trend, it is a little bit more disturbing.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I think the garage door is making... I don't have a noise gate on this mic anymore, so all kinds of background noises are audible.
Content.
Yeah, content. But just look out for these things.
And if there's any producers out there, if you see one in the wild, if you live in Monroe, New York, go ahead, let us know. Snap a pic, a flippy picky. Keep us posted.
I'm just waiting for it to
stick some googly eyes on it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to bump into somebody, and
so they can sue.
Yeah. Yeah, Sue Smiley. All right. Okay, moving on here. We have a quick update about QAnon.
Q the miserable, Q the desperate. What must I do to convince you people? You're right, Q.
There's a new documentary on HBO all about Q. Here's the preview here.
Yeah.
What had started in an online forum had crawled out from behind the screen. In 2018, I set out to chart QAnon's origins.
You can really find yourself falling down a hole trying to find out who Q is.
Dangerous ideas. That's a scary idea.
It seems like Q's gone mainstream.
What did we conspire against?
The lunatics running the asylum.
Q into the storm.
Lunatics running the asylum. Oh, man. Yeah, super intense. I'm actually very curious. It is kind of, I don't know, a little bit of resistance just because I'm just kind of annoyed by Q at this point. And, I kind of already know what a liberal media is going to say about it. But I could see how it'd be interesting to somebody who hasn't been flooded with Q info for 3 years.
Yeah, and the way they have some of the people anonymized in this is really interesting. There's a footage of this guy who's sitting across from the producer and probably giving his testimony or something, and they have him kind of like transparent and scribbled out. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's just weird. Yeah, I don't know. The fact that they
watched it? Are you going to watch it?
I don't have HBO, and I don't really care about the documentary. I'll have somebody else watch it and tell me what it's about.
Okay.
I'm not going to waste my time.
It's interesting, the mainstreamification and the commoditization of Q in mainstream media. Q as a phenomenon has now been commodified in entertainment, such as with the South Park special, which I haven't seen. But, it's all about Q, and now you got a Q documentary, and you got to, get your HBO subscription so you can learn about Q, because you definitely don't want to just search it on the internet, because that's where the crazies are in charge of the asylum. You must get your HBO approved Q info.
Yeah. Where'd you hear about that? Oh, the HBO doc.
HBO. It's
solid
really
talking point around the cooler.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought that was interesting that they, like you said, they're commercially. It's become a topic to make money off of, not just from the advocates, but from its opponents. You know, it's almost like,
I'd say especially from the opponents.
Yeah, lots of headlines. It's to keep the Trump hate train going post-Trump. So there's a lot there, but I don't know. We'll just keep our eye on it.
Real quick.
Yeah.
No, I'll save it after this next story.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do a quick Days of Noah story here, and then we'll get into some 33.
So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
Sorry, I stepped on you.
That's okay. This story was flying around, man,
well,
and it was a big update.
Well, yes, but also I found it interesting that this is the main part of this story is actually something we reported on the last episode, towards the end. In the Beast System section, talking about I thought it was the Beast. Yeah, mouse grown in a jar. That was kind of the breakthrough story part of this, but this article from, what is this, Haaretz.com goes a little bit deeper, and so I wanted to bring it to you.
Do you have a paywall on this thing?
I do, but I got around it. Archive.today. You want me to give you the link?
Yes, please do. I was just hacking into the mainframe real quick, but if you have a quicker one.
So the headline here is, "This is not science fiction. Israeli researchers have grown an embryo outside the womb." And it's kind of a long article, so I'm not going to read the whole thing because I think according to this audio thing here, it'll take 23 minutes just to read through it.
Yeah, but I don't think you put the right link in there.
I didn't?
No. Oh, there's several links. Okay, yeah. I see here. Yeah, well, that's interesting. Yeah, especially comparing it. Well, you're going to have to take it. Nope, no, you're not. Okay.
Well, I have stuff highlighted too, so.
All right. Well, I'll get us started.
Okay.
This is not science fiction. Israeli researchers have grown an embryo outside the womb. It reads like this. An embryo floats in a bath of warm liquid, transparent, folded into itself, like all embryos. There's a large head with a round eye in it, the red heart, and the spinal cord that extends vertebrae by vertebrae to the curled up tail. Anyone might think it's a regular embryo, human or mouse. At this stage of development, both species sport a tail. But no, again, reference to the mouse grown in a jar. But no, this embryo is not developing within a mother's womb, but between the glass sides of a revolving vial at a temperature of 37 degrees Celsius set by a faithful thermostat. It's the first time in the world that scientists have succeeded in growing an embryo of a mammal, a mouse in this case, for a period of this duration. The venue is the laboratory of Professor Jacob Hanna and the Molecular Genetics Department of the Weizmann Institute of Science. Okay, what do you got highlighted?
Okay, so again, we covered that part of the story and how they're able to do it and keep it alive much longer than before, and the glass thing and the temperatures and the rotating thing. And let me scroll down here. There's a lot in there. Okay, so there's a lot of, they bring up a whole bunch of issues, and they talk about the ethical problems with this and everything else. And it says, in the meantime, while the disputes over moral validity of using embryos for research or for transplants continue to roil, a new alternative route for creating embryos has emerged: synthetic embryos. The heart of the matter is this. The first embryonic cells bear the potential to differentiate into every type of cells. For this reason, they are known as stem cells, like the stem of a tree that divides into separate branches. Gradually, as the development continues, this omnipotence is reduced to a level at which a cell that takes the route of particular development loses its ability to develop in other directions. Finally, it becomes a mature cell with defined form and function, which means that a skin cell will never be able to reverse direction and become a muscle cell or a bone cell. At least that was the paradigm until 2006, when Professor Shinya Yamanaka announced that he had succeeded in restoring a mature cell to its former state. He took a mature cell which had already differentiated to become a specialized cell and restored it to the condition of an embryonic cell with the potential to develop anew into any cell in the body. 6 years later, Yamanaka, together with Sir John B. Gurdon, was awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine for reversing time's arrow with an embryonic development. Quote, this process, which I like to compare to a computer restart, resetting what existed in order to start anew, is today a very established technology which we also use. Hanna said, quote, it raises the possibility of taking mature cells, returning them to the stem cell stage, and using them to create embryos. These synthetic embryos, called such because they did not originate, as is standard in nature, from an egg and a sperm, but from a stem cell, are forging a new reality for which the old ethical rules are no longer valid.
Oh, that's interesting. The ethical rules are no longer valid.
Yeah.
That's quite a leap.
It's crazy. No longer a ban on growing the embryo for more mature than 2 weeks from the moment the egg is fertilized because there is no egg. Oh, so simple. We have circumvented it. Until now, we were successful in growing synthetic embryos for only a few days. Our research proposes that the possibility exists to grow such embryos for a far longer period until organ formation. That raises hopes regarding transplants, for which the organs will be taken from synthetic embryos.
That's so funny. Such like a scientist thing to do. Like, oh, the ethical concerns revolve around the egg? Well, I'll just get rid of the egg. There we go. No ethical concerns.
No ethical concerns. And then I think the interviewer asks the question, is that legalistic hair splitting? To say that a difference exists in defining life between a natural embryo and an embryo termed synthetic. Mm-hmm. And he answers, of course, I don't think it's legalistic hair splitting. The synthetic embryo is not very much different from tissue that today is created from stem cells, a procedure about which there is no debate. Tissues like that create miniature organs called organoids, which we've talked about. Which can be sustained in a test tube for a year, even 2 years. It was recently shown that an organoid of the human cerebral cortex creates brain waves similar to those we find in preemies, which caused a furor among those who see this as the creation of consciousness. People expressed concern that the organoid can experience suffering. Personally, I do not share that approach, but of course, practically, I am committed to the rules of ethics and to the accepted authorizations, which is a polite way of saying that, we're still keeping it legal.
Yeah, I'm not technically breaking any rules.
Right. It gets better here. The possibility of growing synthetic embryos from stem cells advances the possibility of organ transplants in humans, not only because it bypasses the ethical problem of using natural embryos, but also because it possesses an incalculable advantage biologically. The body of a transplant recipient has a tendency to reject the new organ because it is identified as a foreign body, but an organ that is created from the stem cells of the transplant recipient won't be rejected because it is not foreign to the body. So it's basically, take a little stem cell from your body and make a new kidney that is your kidney.
Yeah, right. You're not using separate DNA or separate synthetic stuff. You're making it from your own cells.
Right. It goes on here. But why is it necessary to create a whole embryo from the stem cell? After all, it's possible to make do with the stem cells themselves and program them to develop in a test tube into whichever tissue we wish and then transplant the result. That is in fact what is being done now in a first experiment of its kind with sufferers from Parkinson's disease. Scientists reprogrammed the patient's skin cells to become stem cells and then programmed them to become neural cells that secrete dopamine. These were injected into the patient's brain, and now it remains to examine whether the new cells will replace the cells that were destroyed by the disease. This is what happened with monkeys. However, scientists do not always know how to program the stem cells to develop precisely in the desired direction, to become kidney cells, lung cells, or heart cells, for example. In fact, in general, they don't know what needs to be added to the test tube, which substances to provide to make the magic happen.
This girl must be practicing witchcraft.
Sounds a little bit like witchcraft.
Yeah. Wow.
And it goes on here. They ask about, hey, is this playing God? Are you trying to play God? Quote, we are indeed trying to move from mature cells to a stem cell and back to a different mature cell. Backward and forward all along the way, or a few stations. To maneuver as we wish, but not in order to play God, but in order to understand the laws that organize the system. The ability to control the stages is the ultimate sign, the proof that we have understood the basic principles, and in addition, this flexibility makes it possible to do a number of exceptional and marvelous things that could change people's lives.
Marvelous.
What I'm hearing there is yada, yada, yada. Basically, yes, we're trying to play God without saying it or denying it even.
Yeah.
And then it continues on here, such as, quote, such as turning skin cells into an egg. We can already do that in mice. You can take skin cells, take it backward to become an embryonic stem cell, and then move it forward so it differentiates into an egg. In humans, we are able to reach only the station before the last, until the origin cell that is meant to develop into sex cells, but I hope that soon we will also decipher the transition to the final stage, the creation of the egg, which by its nature takes place in the ovary. That means that women will be exempt from the need to provide eggs. We will not need to collect eggs from women whom we previously flooded with hormones in order to stimulate their ovaries in cases where they have difficulty producing eggs spontaneously. Egg donation will become unnecessary, and there won't be pressure to freeze eggs. In all these cases, a simple skin cell will suffice, which can be turned into an egg in the laboratory. And they ask, what do you mean soon? Quote, I estimate within a few years unless we encounter an unexpected obstacle. And from there, the way will not be long to something that sounds even more fantastic, to produce eggs from the cell of a man.
Ooh.
Oh, I beg your pardon? Quote, effectively, this is a route that's very similar to the one I described earlier in creating an egg from a skin cell, but this time the skin cell will come from a male. Just like before, we will take the skin cell and return it to the condition of the stem cell. We will program it to be the origin cell that creates the sex cells as previously, but before that, we will remove the Y chromosome, the male sex chromosome, from it. That is possible thanks to the method we developed that causes the cell to throw out that chromosome. In the absence of a Y chromosome in the origin cell, it can be expected to create only eggs. And if so, we will have caused a cell from a man's body to become an egg. If that succeeds, it will mean the male couples will be able to have a child together of their own flesh and bone. One parent will provide the sperm cell, the other will donate the skin cell that will become the egg. Basil, that is
aliens.
That is aliens right there.
That's pretty next level.
It's crazy. But you know, I actually talked about this years ago, must have been 2012, 2013, where, you know, there's a lot of, one of the apologetics against gay marriage is that, hey, if everybody was gay, if everybody was a homosexual, then, you know, we're pushing the extinction of mankind because nobody can procreate.
Right.
And I mentioned, you know, that whole concept is going to be quote unquote debunked or overcome with technology. And here we are. I mean, they're literally talking. It took a few years for a scientist to admit it, but here we go. I mean, it's pretty much there. And there's one more thing to mention here that I think is worth highlighting. It's at the very end of this article here. And this is, again, talking about this Professor Hanna. At age 41, he says, quote, I'm coming to recognize increasingly that I am, all in all, a hedonist who is supported by family and by philanthropists who donate to the laboratory where I practice my only hobby, research. Overall, I feel that I don't deserve this. Maybe it's a survivor guilt of someone who endured and thrived when many of his colleagues on all planes, national, professional, gender, didn't succeed because they didn't have the opportunity. Everything could have been so different. So at the very end here, he admits he's a hedonist. Which
yeah, that's interesting. He must be really working with an
Satan.
academic definition of hedonist. Meaning research is like his only pleasure.
It's the only pleasure,
that's what he focuses on. Huh.
So there you go. That's
very interesting.
The deeper end of this story here about the Israeli researcher who made this breakthrough of sustaining an embryo outside of a womb. And, you know, on the surface, it's kind of like, whoa, yeah, major developments. But then you read through the interview and it's like, whoa, this guy's ideologies are pretty out there. And he's getting around all kinds of ethical questions.
Well, it's very interesting that they do that because normally, or at least the old paradigm used to be, you know, scientists are scientists and they do the science. They are not ethicists.
Right.
That's not their job to decide what to do with the information, the science that they come up with. You know, they just do the research. But, you know, this guy is like, no, I am the scientist. I am the ethicist. I am the hedonist. I am all. And it is interesting with the playing God comment because, in the past, if you accuse a scientist, or at least in the public domain, in a newspaper or something, you accuse them of playing God, they usually go, no, we're not playing God. We wouldn't do that. This guy's just like, yeah, what of it? Of course I'm playing God. That's the whole point.
He kind of denied. He's like, oh, it's not playing God, and then went on to proceed to how, explain how it kind of is like playing God.
Yeah.
So,
well, it is, it is interesting in hindsight, like with the scientific worldview, especially of those who are doing this kind of research, who, generally probably wouldn't admit to believing in a monotheistic God, at least.
Yeah.
That they would even feel the need to deny that. But it's basically just PR.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, wow. Well, that's some next level stuff, man.
Well, he's in Israel too, which is interesting, with a lot of my views and many of their people out there who have looked at the scriptures and have suggested that perhaps the Antichrist and the false prophet, the entire beast system comes out of eschatological Jerusalem. Yeah. And it's kind of consistent with that. They're making these breakthroughs, and if they're going to have some kind of messianic figure, why not be some kind of genetically pure or genetically engineered human that did not be born from a woman's womb?
Human.
Much like, similar to the story of Jesus and, the virgin birth and all that. It's kind of like the modern version of it. And it taps into the passages that we've talked about in the past. Daniel 12:4, about many shall run to and fro. Knowledge shall be increased in the end of days. And also the other one that's interesting is from Daniel 2. If you go to verses 41 through 43, this is the one that talks about mixing iron and clay. And, as you saw the iron mixed with miry clay, so will the people mix with one another, but they will not hold together any more than iron mixes with clay. And, there's different interpretations of that. But if you apply it to the eschatology, it seems to suggest that there is some kind of mingling that is not kosher, if I can use that phrase, not God ordained. And therefore, it is very much like the days of Noah. So there you go.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Very interesting. Okay. Well, you got some 33 updates for us?
I do. I just wish they would stop the garage. How many times do you have to open and close a garage?
Can you hear the buzz? How many motorcycles you got to pop wheelies on the way out.
And it's called air therapy, by the way. People that ride motorcycles. That ride it around.
I had never heard that term.
Oh,
That's a good term.
Yeah.
Air therapy.
Air therapy.
I did watch Rogue One. I've sort of transferred my Marvel energy over to Star Wars the past few days. Watched Rogue One, and there was a clip, of course, Rogue One being where we got the "Congratulations, you are being rescued. Please do not resist" clip.
Yeah.
And there's another one. I didn't clip it yet, but I just was going to put it out there. Same robot, lovable guy. Does some calculations and decides that they have 33% survival for their mission there. And of course they, not to give it away, but yeah, everybody dies in the end of Rogue One. So yeah, I don't know. Considering all the numbers that get thrown around for COVID and vaccines and things like that, especially 33%, we hear a lot. Just triggered. I got triggered.
You got triggered. Well, there's a side story here, real briefly. If you want to read it, you can. This is the XinhuaNet.com. Israeli researchers develop weather-resistant wheat through hybrid.
I had not read this. I don't know what it is. It sounds boring. What is it?
It's very short. Basically, let me just read. It's a short story. Israeli researchers have created and improved modern wheat variety by adding it a gene segment of wild wheat, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem said on Wednesday. In this way, the researchers restored modern wheat to essential traits that were lost in the domestication process thousands of years ago, thus making it more resistant to climate change and extreme dry conditions. And, it's whatever. It's just some hybrid wheat. But again, there's just, there's a lot of eschatological undertones with that. You have the wheat and the tares passage, the parable of the weeds from Matthew 13. And, I just thought it was weird that Israel, Israeli researchers really doing all kinds of genetic, a lot of genetic mingling.
I think it's interesting how they're basically rewilding the wheat.
Yeah.
They're putting back in the ancient wild DNA of wheat to make it more resistant or resilient.
Which is interesting when you read the parable of the weeds. It says, but while everyone was asleep, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and slipped away.
Dun, dun, dun.
When the wheat sprouted and bore grain, then the weeds also appeared. So there you go. I just thought it was very interesting. What's going on over there in Israel, man?
Lots of science, man.
Lots of science. All right. Got a quick handful of 33 updates.
33 is the number of completion of the Great War.
33 being the Illuminati dog whistle. Of course, there's many different reasons for the number 33 being pushed out there. This first one from APnews.com. Strong quake shakes Japan. Minor injuries, no major damage. So that's good, considering I think it was 10 years ago, 2011, that Japan had the big tsunami that took out the Fukushima. I think that was 2011, right? If I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. 10 years. Wow, that's quick. But it says here, a strong earthquake struck Saturday off northern Japan, shaking buildings even in Tokyo and triggering a tsunami advisory for a part of the northern coast. No major damage was reported, but several people had minor injuries. The U.S. Geological Survey put the strength of the quake magnitude 7.0 and depth at 54 kilometers, which is 33.5 miles. So there you go. That's it. That's the 33 update for that earthquake. It's interesting to bring in different news stories on the 33 update wagon, just to
the magic number, man.
It's the magic number. It's always there in certain kinds of HARP technologies, maybe. Also, this just a couple of them that are quick here. WWLP, I think. Yeah, WWLP.com. Massachusetts COVID-19 dashboard. 33 new deaths.
Ah, okay.
But they're not alone, because in the UK, Reuters.com, UK reports 33 new deaths. Lowest daily number since October, though. Hooray.
So consistent.
I know.
COVID really is consistent. You can say a lot of things about it, but not a whole lot of surprises.
No. So there you go. Those are the 33 updates for today, and let's get into some vaccine.
Yeah, let's do it.
Vaccine.
A pandemic special.
Okie dokie. So let's check in across the pond, Gons. This is coming from BBC.com. The headline, COVID. Arrests during anti-lockdown protests in London. Uh-oh. It's been popping off over there. And not to be outdone, crowds marched from Hyde Park to Westminster with at least 33 arrests by police, mostly for COVID breaches. What?
I think I just closed. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Uh-oh.
Browser went bye-bye. Hold on.
Shall I continue?
Yeah, keep
you're
reading
doing your thing. Well, again, and I love it how it's at least 33 arrests. They could have said 34 if it was 34, but no, at least 33. Scotland Yard said the number of people attending Saturday's demonstrations exceeded expectations. The Home Office said it was still illegal for people to attend protests under the current coronavirus rules. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Lawrence Taylor told the BBC more people than previously expected were at Saturday's protests, but the Met has not given a formal estimate of the number in attendance. I believe the Met is the Metropolitan Police Department. BBC correspondent Mariana Spring, reporting from the anti-lockdown protests, said the atmosphere was animated. and a number of people appeared to be angry about restrictions on peaceful protest. Later in Hyde Park, police officers were forced to run back to their vans as protesters threw bottles and cans at them. PA media reported that some members of the public then left the park with small children carried by their parents. Okay, weird detail, but sure. The anti-lockdown protests came after a vigil following the death of Sarah Everard in South London last week resulted in arrests as police enforced COVID and public order laws. I can't remember if we reported on this, but did you see this? The vigil that was being held?
No.
Yeah, so there was a vigil for this Sarah person, and it was just kind of your normal vigil. You know, there's candles and people are kind of being very somber. And the cops showed up and like started rousting people, beating people.
Really?
For this very, like, at least from what I saw, I don't have all the details, but from what I saw, it was just like a peaceful vigil like you'd see for any, sort of public mourning event. But yeah, cops weren't having it. Earlier, more than 60 MPs and peers wrote to the Home Secretary calling for laws to be changed to allow peaceful protests during lockdown. Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey blamed the scenes at the Clapham event on a lack of clarity, putting police, quote, in an impossible position, adding that the right to protest was a basic freedom. At the scene, thousands of tightly packed lockdown. Oh, I think is this a new article? No, okay. Thousands of tightly packed anti-lockdown protesters marched up Whitehall with some chanting freedom to the beat of a drum. One man carried a placard bearing the words, "No more NHS and Gov lies." I have seen very few demonstrators wearing masks, and there's no attempt at social distancing. So far, the police, who are here in large numbers, have been taking a hands-off approach, though I have seen at least one arrest on Whitehall. Among the crowd, there are undoubtedly some conspiracy theorists.
Oh, no.
Undoubtedly.
Undoubtedly. This is a disaster. Arrest them all.
You know what I do love about the reporting on this UK story versus if it was America? In the U.S., it would be 50,000 conspiracy theorists showed up. Where over here it's just, there were some there, I'm sure. Undoubtedly, there were some conspiracy theorists, with some accusing the mainstream media of pushing fake news. But that is by no means everyone here. One woman who did not want to be named told me she knew COVID was bad. Quote, "I had it myself last March," she said, "but this lockdown is too much." The letter to Home Secretary Priti Patel, organized by campaign groups Liberty and Big Brother Watch, urged her to issue guidance to police forces on facilitating protests. The initial organizers of the Sarah Everard Vigil effectively lost a high court battle to hold it lawfully the day before, resulting in its cancellation. But hundreds attended Clapham Common to gather around tributes left on a bandstand. The Met Police said the gathering became unlawful after people began delivering speeches to the crowd. Yeah, because, you can have people around, but as soon as some rabble-rouser gets up and starts giving a speech, that's when COVID strikes. The event also increased interest in plans to give officers more precise powers to restrict demonstrations in a new sweeping police crime sentencing and court bill debated by MPs. Then there's a couple bullet points here to links to other things, but they include why police should get the power to limit noisy protests.
Oh, gosh, come on. These
don't be noisy.
Lawmakers.
Yeah. Anyways, finish it off here. Sir Patrick Vallance, the UK's chief scientific office advisor, told MPs earlier this month that protests elsewhere had not resulted in a spike in infections and that outdoor gatherings were safer than indoors, though not risk-free. He said, quote, "It is the case that it is difficult to see how things like large beach gatherings and so on can cause a spike. The same was the case in a protest march in New York. They did not really see any spikes after that," which we talked about quite a bit last year during the Black Lives Matter protests, where, you couldn't have a Bible study of 10 people at your house, but you could gather with 100,000 protesters and scream going down the street. Quote, it is lower risk, but the other thing that can happen with outdoor events and so on is that when indoor things are also open, you start to get people congregating indoors around that. That can increase risk, but outdoors itself is lower risk. I love this. I love this science. You know, the problem with having outdoor things is that sometimes people go indoors and then okay.
And then COVID, of course.
And then COVID. So yeah, there you go. You know, the UK pushing back pretty hard. They didn't give any numbers on this, but I mean, I was seeing numbers upwards of 50,000 people coming out.
Yeah, there were some reports that I saw on Twitter that were like hundreds of people gather, and then they show the footage. It's like, that's more than hundreds. That's thousands.
Yeah, right.
They're trying to downplay it, you know, to make it seem like, it's just these fringe few that decide to walk around and protest.
It's all about the numbers, Gons. You can say hundreds of protesters. That could be, 4,500. That could be 9,900.
500.
Yeah, it's all
which
about
is 50,000
statistics. And then, we had some video over on YouTube of the march through the park there.
Or Twitter, but
lots of people, no masks.
Lots of people, no masks. And do you see the mist of Rona falling on these people?
Yes, the mist, the fog, the Rona fog.
The Rona fog? Watch out.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the absurdity has gotten to new heights. And on that account here, this next story from CNET.com, California theme park group wants you to stop screaming on roller coasters.
Hey, you know what? California theme park groups want me to do a lot of things, and I have yet to comply.
I have a clip from their meeting here.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
They say here, this may be one of the biggest challenges of the coronavirus outbreak. Much more difficult for most people than strapping on a face mask.
Challenges.
More than strapping masks on people's faces.
More than shutting down the entire economy, more than setting up field hospitals and, making sure grandma doesn't show up at Christmas. The worst part about it is the roller coasters.
A California theme park trade group is joining those in Japan and recommending ways to limit screaming on roller coasters and other thrill rides, since screams produce saliva droplets that can spread COVID-19.
Recommending ways to limit screaming. Besides asking people not to scream, what possible way could you have to limit people screaming?
I don't know, but
you could pump them full of anti-anxiety meds, give them beta blockers before they go on the roller
just turn them into little zombies while they're riding. The California Attractions and Park Association recently published a list of best practices for reopening parks. The document is no doubt looking ahead to April 30th, when Disneyland and California Adventure are set to reopen after having been closed since March 2020. The document doesn't flat out say don't scream. Instead, it notes that parks have the, quote, ability to limit activities that are known to cause increased spread. Examples: singing, shouting, heavy breathing. It goes on to say that the use of face masks and the fact that riders usually all face in the same direction would help minimize droplet spread. It notes that, quote, modifications to seat loading patterns will be required on amusement park rides to mitigate the effects of shouting, end quote. You know, this is ridiculous. So, like, what if I should go to Disneyland and make a big fuss, and record it? Like, I'm getting in a seat, like, I don't want the Rona. That man in front, he's going to scream on this ride, and I'm going to catch the Rona. And then it'll be on your tab, Disney.
I think a good strategy would just be to have shushers along the roller coaster.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody starts screaming, you'd have attendants posted every, couple yards that just go, shh. It's like a big
no shushing.
library.
No shushing. It could spread COVID.
Yeah, shushing does seem like it would spread COVID.
It would be a robot shushing you instead of a...
Ooh, yeah.
But also, what's more dangerous? What do you think is more likely on a roller coaster? Getting coronavirus or getting hit by birds? Remember Fabio? The big Fabio clip where he's on a roller coaster and then he comes back, he's all bloody.
Lives rent-free in my head all year long. Fabio getting hit in the face by a pigeon while he's on a roller coaster. Everybody can take a second, pause the show, go watch the Fabio.
Go look at it. You don't actually see the bird hitting his face, but it's more of a cut scene where he's like all happy. He's going up the roller coaster.
I'm pretty sure footage exists.
We couldn't find it the last time we tried.
Okay, well.
Anyway, so there you go.
No,
don't scream, folks.
Well, it's interesting because screaming on a roller coaster, that's not just necessarily a voluntary thing. That's that's a physiological response. Yeah. And it's, some have theorized, scientists will say, that, screaming is a physiological response because it's your body trying to take deeper breaths, to keep the oxygen flowing while you have heightened adrenaline and stuff. It's like a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
I have a feeling if you stop people from screaming on roller coasters, the roller coaster is going to get back to the station with a bunch of passed out people.
That'll be the next pandemic is just people passing out.
Roller coasters. Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's just a ridiculous thing here. Not to be outdone, we have another story. You want to take this one?
Yeah, I do. Dailymail.co.uk. Again, kind of related to the Embryo story we had, but says here, injecting men with the female hormone progesterone would reduce the severity of their COVID-19. Could reduce the severity of their COVID-19, study claims. Who is part of this study?
A bunch of Israelis.
Jeez,
sorry, I'm gonna get in trouble. We're gonna get in trouble. Me for saying that. I'm gonna get canceled.
Injection with the female sex hormone progesterone would improve outcomes for men hospitalized with severe COVID-19 infections, a study has concluded. The finding by researchers from California follows multiple reports that men are at a higher risk of severe illness and death from coronavirus than women. Progesterone has certain anti-inflammatory properties and thus, the team said, may be able to dampen the often fatal immune responses called cytokine storm. The research was undertaken by pulmonologist Sarah Gandharhari of the Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles and her colleagues, of course, is California. Quote, as an ICU doctor, I was struck by the gender disparity among COVID-19 patients who were very sick, remained in the hospital, and needed ventilators, she said. Progesterone is produced in both men and women's bodies, although the latter produced considerably more of the hormone during their reproductive years. Experts have also noted that premenopausal women tend to experience less severe cases of COVID-19 than their postmenopausal counterparts. Premenopausal women tend to have higher progesterone levels, while such tends to decrease at lower levels of postmenopause. In their clinical trial, which was undertaken from April through August last year, the researchers recruited 40 male patients who had been hospitalized with moderate to severe COVID-19 and randomly divided them into two groups. One group acted as a control sample for comparison and received only the standard medical care given at that time for the disease. I like how they have to reference at that time, the standard medical care at that time. The experimental group, meanwhile, also received 100 milligram injections of progesterone twice daily for 5 days during the time they were hospitalized. All the patients were assessed by the team daily for either 15 days or until they were discharged from the hospital. On the 7th day, each patient was ranked on a standard 7-point scale clinical status, which ranged from 7, meaning not hospitalized or no limitations on activities, through 1, which is death. The researchers found that compared to the control group, patients who received the progesterone treatment scored a median of 1.5 points higher on the scale. The experimental group also had fewer days of hospitalization overall and a lower need for supplemental oxygen and mechanical ventilation. Although the team said the differences between the groups in these areas was not statistically significant.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. No serious adverse effects were observed as a result to the progesterone injections. 2 patients did die during the 15-day study period, one from each of the 2 groups, but such were unrelated to the experimental treatments, the team said. Quote, while our findings are encouraging for the potential of using progesterone to treat men with COVID-19, our study had significant limitations, cautioned Dr. Gandhari. Firstly, she explained the sample size was relatively small and was primarily made up of white, Hispanic, and obese individuals with a moderate burden of other conditions, which served to increase the risk of worse outcomes. Furthermore, while the trial was randomized and featured a control group, it was also unblinded, meaning that the research team, physicians, and patients all knew who had received the experimental treatment. Quote, further research is necessary in larger, more heterogeneous populations, including postmenopausal women, and at other treatment centers, Dr. Gandhari added. This, she continued, will allow the team to establish the degree of clinical efficacy and to assess any other potential safety concerns of the treatment approach. And then they've got a link to the whole paper there. But yeah, very interesting. I mean, especially just considering all the conversation going on with, the trans community and the drastic measures to try to find treatment for COVID-19. Injecting men with female hormones, don't worry, guys. This is the way to do it.
Well,
just participate.
It proves that COVID-19 is super woke.
Are you even woke?
Because it kills men.
I was going to say, well, where's the outcry about men having the disparities in gender outcomes when it comes to COVID?
Yeah.
The woke crowd should be coming to the defense of men here.
No. This verifies or validates the wokeness that, it acts in the benefit of the woke, because the patriarchy must go down. So if it's killing men, then it's working on our behalf. COVID-19 is good for the feminists. It's killing the men.
Social justice warrior. COVID.
Social justice, and one of the things they just glanced over, but I think it's we need to make sure to highlight, is that I mentioned the obese, and they're like, oh yeah, some people died, the Hispanic and obese individuals and more moderate burden. I think reports came out that 73% of the people who passed away from COVID-19 were labeled obese.
Were obese, yeah.
So maybe more of a thing than...
Have you looked at the obese chart lately?
I have not. It's not something I do regularly.
I will say, when you go to the doctor and you stand on the scale, they usually have the chart up right in front of you, so you come face to face with the reality of your situation.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, those charts, they don't take in your body mass index. They don't take in your, are you a muscly boy?
Right.
Or,
they just take it based on your height and your weight.
And weight, which is not a great way to do it.
Lots of variables unaccounted for. Yeah.
But it's it can be pretty concerning. It's a lot easier to get categorized as obese than you think.
Yeah, I think technically I would be categorized as obese, but it doesn't take into account my my swollenness.
Yes, I know. They gotta see. It's more oppression of the swole.
Yeah.
The swole oppressed.
It's the next group of oppressed peoples that we must free from the inequality.
What other thing? I had one more thing to bring up about that, but probably not important.
Okay. All right. If you remember, let me know, because I got one more story from the vaccine updates here.
Okay.
And
let's hear it.
This is it's a DNA-RNA CRISPR thing.
'Cause I'm
CRISPR. Cas9.
This is DocWireNews.com. It's more of a presser. An engineered CRISPR-Cas12a variant and DNA-RNA hybrid guides enable robust and rapid COVID-19 testing. Yeah. So let me read the abstract here, and I didn't read through the entire article, but here's what it says. Extensive testing is essential to break the transmission of SARS-CoV-2, which causes the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Here we present a CRISPR-based diagnostic assay that is robust to viral genome mutations and temperature, produce results fast, can be applied directly on nasopharyngeal NP specimens without RNA purification, and incorporates a human internal control within the same reaction. Specifically, we show that the use of an engineered AsCas12a enzyme enables detection of wild-type and mutated SARS-CoV-2 and allows us to perform the detection step with loop-mediated isothermal amplification, LAMP, at 60 to 65 degrees Celsius. We also find that the use of hybrid DNA-RNA guides increases the rate of reaction, enabling our test to be completed within 30 minutes. Utilizing clinical samples from 72 patients with COVID-19 infections and 57 healthy individuals, we demonstrate that our test exhibits a specificity and positive predictive value of 100%. With a sensitivity of 50 and 1,000 copies per reaction, or 2 and 40 copies per microliter for purified RNA samples and unpurified NP specimen, respectively. So I think this is just a new method to test COVID-19.
Yeah, you're going to have to put that into English, I think.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, and please, producer Mark, our resident biologist, correct me if I'm wrong here, but basically this new CRISPR-Cas12a variant is able to diagnose if you have COVID-19 or even a mutant form much quicker than any other type of test out there. And it uses the hybrid DNA-RNA guides that creates a quicker reaction, which, it's part of it's different from PCR, but it's similar in that it creates a reaction, and I think they try to get, how diseased you are or whatever. But, this is, I bring this up because CRISPR hasn't necessarily, and we've actually covered a story about how CRISPR is involved in some of the diagnosing in the past, but as we go on here, and it's not going to be just with COVID, I think whatever the next future pandemic, COVID-26 or whatever it's going to be, I think CRISPR is going to be utilized a lot more, and it's going to be more invasive in a sense. And I'm just wondering, and I'm throwing this out to anybody who understands, the nuances with this, how similar to PCR, if there is some kind of dial on a test like this that can make it so that it seems like more people are infected than not, even though this thing is like 100% accurate. Well, okay, 100% accurate compared to what? Compared to the PCR tests? With all the 72 patients with COVID-19 infection, based on what? You know what I mean? So what's the control here? So I'm just curious how this would affect that, but also it's just tracking the progress of CRISPR, and I think how, not just for the diagnosing, but also I think as we go along here, we're going to start hearing more about CRISPR being used for maybe not directly in vaccines, but maybe treatments in a sense of things like COVID. So, just keeping track of this stuff, because this is the stuff you probably don't hear about in headlines. It's a science journal thing, so it's kind of abstract. But
another interesting thing that I think we want to keep an eye on, it caught my eye. I don't know if
it caught your
if you've
googly
seen
eye?
this around too much, but it's this term wild type.
Yes.
Referring to SARS-CoV-2. And in the thing you just read here says, specifically, we show that the use of an engineered AsCas12a enzyme enables detection of wild type and mutated SARS-CoV-2. And this has been popping up a lot more. There's a wild type. They're talking about the wild type COVID and then mutations, like separately. So, we've got all our variants and things. And just over on Merriam-Webster here, wild type meaning a phenotype, genotype, or gene that predominates in a natural population of organisms or strain of organisms in contrast to that of natural or laboratory mutant forms. So I don't know. When I was hearing it, it's like, well, okay, so there's a wild COVID. And then what's the alternative? Domesticated COVID or like laboratory COVID?
If in your definition, if mutated comes from labs, then
well, that's what I'm saying. Like I think like an official scientist would say, like, no, wild type just means like the original type that occurs, and then any mutation after that is not wild type. But if there was like a wild, I mean, if it mutates in the wild, like, or naturally, why is that not wild type? I don't know. I don't fully understand it, but it's just a term, and this is part of the value of the show, is identifying these terms early before they just kind of get snuck into the lexicon and taken for granted.
Right.
So it was in the past week or so, this term wild type was just popping up all over the place.
Yeah.
My initial instinct was like, okay, so it sounds like they're making a distinction between, wild natural COVID or whatever, or trying to make a point like, oh, it didn't come from a lab. It's the wild type, again, with the constant back and forth about did this come from the Wuhan lab or not?
Right.
Which there's been actually some great updates from members of that team. The WHO team went over there and said, oh, no, couldn't have possibly come from the lab.
Yeah.
Well, now they're coming out and being like, well, we had to say that. Like, we had no option.
We called that. We said that they had to say
it. They've come out and said, like, no, we basically had a gun to our heads. Saying
that's pretty much exactly how we described it. Or like if they want to leave China with as one piece.
They don't want to get disappeared with Jack Ma. So anyways, there's this term wild type has been popping up recently, and I think the technical scientific term still allows for it, it's just a distinction between like the OG, the original COVID versus a mutant COVID or a new strain. But it really is, especially because that's not a common term. A normal human, when they hear wild type, they're going to think like, oh, it's wild. It didn't come from a lab. So I think there's a little bit of some linguistic manipulation happening there using that term in public.
Looks like Fauci's been using it a little bit too recently.
Yeah, well, that's, I think, where I heard it first, was he all of a sudden just kept talking about wild type COVID. And I'm like, what is this, a Pokemon? What are you talking about?
Yeah, and also, if I'm not mistaken, some of the people who have gotten the mRNA vaccine, I don't know all the science behind it, but I've been hearing that they can produce a more intense version of COVID in the future.
Of course they can.
Some of their bodies can create a more infectious type of COVID, a mutated COVID. So
yeah, well, it's the same thing with superbugs we've been hearing about for years, which is, they get, we find something to fight the superbug, and then the superbug evolves and then becomes even more dangerous. I mean, that's the whole thing with antibiotics, and I don't understand why they think that this is not going to happen with their mRNA. And just to review, the mRNA teaches your DNA to make these spike proteins, and so it knows to fight off spike proteins. Well, then COVID is just going to ditch the spike proteins and find some other way to get in you.
Yeah, it's kind of like and I'm using the computer analogy because that's how they've talked about the mRNA vaccine, is kind of like a program, like a program that runs on your software. It's almost like finding a patch for a virus on like one version of your operating system, but then, you move up to a different operating system, there's different kinds of viruses. That old patch isn't going to work anymore, right? It's similar to that. Yeah. Where it's like, you're forever protected from this thing, but when the thing changes, then what? Now what? Now you got to get another one with the mutated thing, and then what? Now you're clogging up your software with all kinds of different information that doesn't belong, and you become a beast. That's basically the idea.
I do want to give a big old shout out to all the Twitch users who are coming up with just excellent COVID Pokemon jokes. There's too many to list on the show, but you're all so dear to me.
Excellent.
Okay, well, should we take a quick break?
Let's do it.
It's break time.
Okay, folks, we're just going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because after this break, we've got an update, Billy Gates update. He says he's a changed man. We'll hear what he has to say. Then we've got our politics section. We're going to check in with, Hannity and Biden and Trump, all the important folks. Everybody's up to stuff, especially Trump. You want to stick around for that news there.
Got insider info.
That's right. We got some insider info. And then after that, we're going to be talking about CERN and UFOs and some Bitcoin. So you don't want to go anywhere. Stick around. But before we get to that, we want to take a second and thank some of our producers of the show, because we are on the value for value model. That's right. You may have noticed we don't do any ad reads, no affiliate codes, really no way to commoditize your trust and attention, which is not great for our bank accounts, but at least we can sleep at night, Gons. And just to review, all corporate sponsorship is a form of censorship, according to Adam Curry of the No Agenda Show there. And, of course, Sigmund Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, the godfather of advertising himself, said in so many words that advertising is brainwashing and that the average man needs, a better man to tell him how to view the world. Indeed, advertising from the very beginning has been a practice in the Hegelian dialectic, where they create a problem and then sell you the product to solve the problem. And so there you go. That's why we have chosen, just as a spiritual practice, not to participate in the advertising system as a foundational pillar of the beast system. Now, that's good and bad for some people, because, maybe you're used to being brainwashed and not having to pay attention to how a piece of media gets created, and not having to take responsibility for the perpetuation of a program that you appreciate. No, you just let the brainwashing wash over you. And then without even thinking about it, you're out buying products for things you don't need. Well, not here, folks. We invite everybody to take responsibility for their own media landscape. And if you enjoy the fact that we do not gain your trust and attention and turn around and sell it as a commodity to advertising companies, you are invited to participate in the value for value model. It's very simple. We create the value. We do it 3 times a week. And if you get any value out of it, you have the opportunity to put the value back in. And it's not just charity. It's not just donations. Just like the real world, if you, put your hard-earned dollars or Bitcoin into keeping the show going, you are a producer of the show. The show gets produced because of our producers. And so we like to take a second and make sure to thank all of the producers. And you out there watching live should make sure to thank your producers as well, because they are the reason why you are able to tune in right now. So without further ado, Gons, are you ready to thank some producers?
I have my gong in finger.
Okay, the gong is ready to be gonged, and I want to start out by letting everybody know about patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. That's patreon.com/CCNT. And we have a couple of new producers over on the Patreon. I want to thank first producer Jen T.
Ooh,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen T.
Thank you very much, producer Jen. And a note from Jen here says, to my favorite millennials. Oh, thanks. To my favorite millennials, I love your show, from an old Gen Xer.
All right.
Thank you for scouring the internet for us. God bless.
Yep, we're bringing generations together is what we're doing.
That's right. That's right. I mean, we actually have I'm very proud of our demographic info. I mean, a lot of shows are mainly cater to, boomers or Gen Xers or something like that, or they cater to millennials and Gen Zers, but we're pretty much even. I don't know if you've looked at our known data, of which there's very little, but of our known data, we've got a great set of demographics. And yes, Gen Xers, as an aging millennial, I have more understanding for the Gen Xers in my life than I've ever had. So thank you very much, producer Jen. Next up, we have producer James H.
Thank you, James H.
Thank you very much, producer James H. And that's all for the patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. But we also have patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio. And for those who might be new, I just want to remind you, Canary Cry Radio and Canary Cry News Talk are actually two separate shows. Canary Cry Radio is an interview style show we've been doing since 2012. Definitely highly recommend you checking it out. But Canary Cry News Talk is the show you're listening to now. But we do want to thank producer Patreon Account of the Year for supporting the Canary Cry Radio in the amount of $33.33.
All right, and I think he's back. He supported us for a while, and then
in and out a little bit,
and came out, but now is returned. So welcome back.
The prodigal son returns. Prodigal producer. Thank you very much. So there you go. Now, folks, I hear you. I feel you. I hear you. I know you're like, oh my gosh, Patreon? What are these guys up to? Look, I get it. A lot of people don't like Patreon. That's okay. We support you. That's why we have canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right, canarycryradio.com/support. Go now, experience the greatness. It's a great place to learn about the value for value model. It's got info on that. You can learn about the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames, but you can also become a producer, either through PayPal. You can come in as a monthly producer. Or if commitment is not your thing, you can come in with a one-time producership in any amount that you would like. There's also cryptocurrency, all sorts of fun ways to become a producer there. Gons, who do we have coming in on PayPal?
PayPal, we have a handful of people, producers. First one, Kimberly W.
Thank you very much, producer Kimberly.
Thank you, producer Kimberly, for coming in. Next, we have producer Malik.
Producer Malik coming in again. Thank you very much, buddy.
And producer Saul.
Producer Saul coming in with the pocket full of sevens.
Yep.
Kimberly, real quick. Yeah. Kimberly left a message or added a note, but the note was just the number 3.
Ooh.
So I don't know if that's secret code or what, but we just wanted to mention that. Producer Kimberly says 3.
Oh, yeah, that's scary. What if it's like a?
I don't know. It's gonna say maybe it's like an MK Ultra activation code, but it's not the most creative MK Ultra activation code I've ever heard.
So yes, thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Malik, and thank you, producer Saul. Saul has a note here. Hey, Gons, hope all is well. I'm looking to invest my stimulus check on Bitcoin, but I'm not sure which wallet to use or which coin to invest in. Well, he said Bitcoin, so I was wondering what you recommended. I won't hold you responsible. I just trust what you are doing, even if it isn't financial advice, which surely this is not financial advice. Mm-hmm. It's just money I can take a risk with since I don't work for it. Yeah. Well, that's your stimmy right there.
Is that Saul's?
Yep.
note, or is that you saying
No,
that?
it's his note.
Oh,
it's just
okay.
money I can take a risk with since I don't work for it. I will donate a small percentage to you guys. Thanks again.
Didn't work for it.
Yeah, since I didn't work for it. Thanks again. God bless you both and the rest of the ministry. And yeah, I mean, there's a few different ways. Like the real entry level thing is Coinbase, just Coinbase.com.
It's the most familiar, easy to use thing would just be using Coinbase.
I'm not a huge fan of Coinbase. I personally don't use it anymore. I use either the Celsius Network or Voyager. Those are both applications that you can
It can
look
get
up.
really technical using other applications. If you're used to just internet, make a password, make an account, put in your debit card, boom, you're done. Coinbase is a good option. But if you're confident that you can kind of navigate some slightly more technical things, yeah, there's plenty of apps that'll get you in there.
Right, and different apps do different things. Voyager is a brokerage account, so you can buy and sell from your dollar. Celsius is just like a wallet. You can earn interest on your coins. So there's different things. It gets into the weeds, but
yeah, and with Celsius again is a great spot if you're just holding the currency. But if you're trying to like buy and sell and move stuff around, Celsius is not the best for that.
Right. So that's kind of what we recommend. Or if you're gonna drop, well, I guess
Celsius also has high fees, but again, if you're just making a purchase. The fees are fine. I mean, if you're doing a bunch of trades on Coinbase, that'll add up pretty quick. But if you're just, kind of wanting to buy some just to have it and don't want to get too technical, Coinbase is an okay way to go.
Yeah, there's other ones out there, Kraken, Gemini. There's a good handful, but I stick to the basics, and the real way to hold Bitcoin is offline on a paper wallet, on a cold storage, which gets way too into the weeds for this conversation here. But those are things maybe we should educate some people on that, because we talk about it a lot, but we don't exactly help people out who want to get involved necessarily.
There's a lot of info. I don't know. It's just not something that we can necessarily add anything to the conversation.
Yeah, there's stuff out there on it. Yeah, for sure. And I like the thing about there's a way you can create a paper wallet and do it completely so that it never touches the internet. And so your private key and your public key were created offline, but it still goes on the blockchain. It's pretty cool, but it's something to you got to look into and research a little bit. But thank you for that, Producer Saul, and good luck with your Bitcoin voyage. I don't know why I said voyage. Why would I say that?
It's the French accent. L'algorithms.
All right, next up here, Producer David M.
Thank you very much, Producer David M.
David M. Does David have a note? I don't think David...
I was just going to double check. I did not see one.
Okay.
No note.
No note. And next, this is our executive producer for the episode 314, Producer Elizabeth S.
Thank you very much, Producer Elizabeth S.
Thank you very much. And also, last but not least, from the PayPal, Sir Jason, Knight of the Anti-Fubar.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sir Jason.
And that does it for the PayPal supporters. We do have a Dame to Dame.
We'll do that after. Let's do that after the crypto.
Okay. Well, speaking of the crypto, we want to thank producer Michael C.
Yeah.
For sending us 345,000 satoshis. Sounds like a lot, but it's still a good amount of money.
Yeah, no, this is
dollars.
It was a great. I think that would make Michael C. the associate executive producer.
Oh yeah, depending on the price, the current price.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, if Bitcoin goes up to $1 million, he is the executive producer of my new yacht.
Of all of the Canary Cry universe.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you can go to canarycryradio.com/crypto if you want to learn more about how to support us that way and learn a little bit about the concept of decentralization and Web 3.0. I got a little thing up there for people to check out, and just also want to thank Jade Bouncerson for the timestamps. You know, there's other ways to support the show beyond your treasure. It's with your time and talent, and certainly your time. Jade Bouncerson spends much time on the timestamps.
Yes,
it's a circular thing. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much, Jade Bouncerson. And I believe she messaged us saying that there's one person right now helping out or something.
Oh, good. I don't know. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I got to read it again. I go through these notes so quickly. I need to pay better attention to it. Sorry about that, Producer Jade. Yeah, then there's no team.
Jade Bouncerson says there's no team. One person contact me and may look for old shows to do timestamps for. Nobody else has checked in. Okay, not a whole lot of volunteers to help out Jade Bouncerson with the timestamps. If you're out there and you've been looking for a way to support the show, but financially or artistically is not for you, but if you like to catch the live broadcasts and want to help out, go ahead and send an email to jadebouncerson@gmail.com. That's Jade Bouncerson, BOUNCERSON @gmail.com. They'll get you hooked up.
Yep. And of course, your time and talent.
I think we should do the knighting before the art, or do we do the art?
Let's do the knighting then. Are you ready?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hold on. Let me get some, make sure I have some of the...
Well, you do that while I give a little intro.
Okay.
And that is that, yes, the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames, folks. It's for those who are it's the elite squad of producers who have been producing for many of them many years, and their support has reached a certain level, and we just like to honor them and thank them for their devotion to keeping the show going. And I'm ready when you are.
All right, let me pull out this katana here with my kimono on.
Oh. Okay, let me pull out my my pen because it's mightier than the sword. Okay, we want to call up Lynn. Please step forward to the Canary Cry Roundtable, where we have a seat for you. Thanks to your generous support in the amount of $1,000 or more, we are proud to pronounce you Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes. You shall now be known as Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes, at the Canary Cry Roundtable, where we have the belt of truthful truthiness, the breastplate of righteous righteousness, the custom-fit Birkenstocks to carry forth the gospel of peace, the shield of ferocious faith, and the helmet of substantiating salvation, the supernatural sword of the spirit, and of course, adorable samurai babies, infinitely cute kittens for cuddling. And if you're hungry, we have Fancy Feast, wet food, carved Cosmo, the crisper cow, and of course, fried wormicorns. And welcome to the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames. Everybody, a big round of applause for your new Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes. Woo! Oh wow, we could actually hear everybody cheering over the internet there.
Yeah, you know, we forgot to add some stuff to the round table there. Quick mac and cheese and celery in a packet of the to-go salmon plus tuna mix-up, which keeps her healthy.
Oh, that's good. Good one-stop shopping and eating when live alone. Okay. Oh, was that added by Dame Lynn?
I thought so, maybe.
Okay, well, we'll stick it in there.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, thank you very much, Dame Lynn, Lady of the Lakes. You'll be added to the list of Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames, and we thank you for your support for so long, and there you go. Okay.
You know, let me check something real quick, because if you go to canarycry.com/knighthood, you can learn a little bit more about the knighthood situation there. But if you scroll down, you can see the list of knights and dames. And we have Dame Island Girl Lynn, and now we have another Dame Lynn. There's two Dame
Lynns. Wow.
Along with Dame Sarah as our triple trifecta dames. The rest are sirs.
The Dame Squad.
The Dame Squad. So there you go. Yeah, thank you for that, Producer Lynn. We appreciate it. And it's a long time coming, but we're glad you're at the round table. Mm-hmm. And we're so thankful, and I think everybody listening is thankful and grateful as well. That's right.
And those out there, if you've been supporting the show, if you believe that you have reached the amount of $1,000 or more, go ahead and send us an email. It's a little bit of the honor system. You just send us your accounting and why you think that you have reached that amount, and we will be more than happy to make a spot for you at the round table.
Yes, and let's go through some jingles that were sent to us. This first one, Adam B. put together the Circle Back jingle.
Circle back, but I'll have to circle back. Circle back, but I'll have to circle back. Circle back, but I'll have to circle back. I'm happy to circle back. I'll have to just circle back with you. We can circle back on that one. Circle back with you. It's an interesting question, but we'll circle back.
That's good.
Very well done. And
yes, I like it. It's poppy. It's nice.
We have a couple ISOs of it that we might be able to use. This first one, I was
going to say a little long.
Yeah, this first one.
It's an interesting question, but we'll circle back.
Which is pretty good. It's kind of like that, what's the word I'm looking for? What is it when you have the rhythms, like all, I forget the word. Something patient.
Syncopation?
Syncopation, thank you. Yes, the syncopated version, or this one that I like better here.
Circle back, but I'll have to circle back.
Much clearer. Nice. It's a good one. I think we're going to use that.
Yeah, we can pop that in. Yes. Anytime we have to circle back.
Anytime we have to circle back, yep. Thank you, producer Adam B.
And thank you, Jen Psaki.
And yeah, I guess we can thank her for providing content to the show. Whether she knows it or not. And I wonder if she has like a shock collar for every time she says circle back now. Somebody in the back,
we were talking about
we're going to circle. We'll get back to it.
I don't know if she's I don't know if she's even been out doing stuff. They stopped. We're in the middle of the March media blackout at the White House, so they haven't been doing their weekly updates that they were so proud that they were doing their weekly press briefings when Trump wouldn't do any of them. They did it for 2 months and then stopped. It was too overwhelming for them. Yeah. So, we haven't seen her lately. We'll see if she circles back next month.
Very good. The other jingle that was sent into us was from producer Aaron, and he loved the algorithm French thing. He had to make it a song.
If you haven't done it yet, folks, go to Apple Podcasts and search out Canary Cry News Talk. Leave a rating and a review. If you haven't done it yet, what are you waiting for? It's very important. These ratings and reviews really go a long way towards helping spread the show via les algorithms.
Did you do the French thing because they canceled Pepe Le Pew? Very good.
That's funny. Thank you very much, producer Aaron.
Yes, and we're going to get to some artwork here. Let me play the jingle.
One art, please.
It's not just your audio editing skills that we look for. We also look for the pen. Because, as you say, Basil, it's mightier than the sword. And this first piece is by Mr. Magoo.
He's back.
He's back.
Yes. And in classic Mr. Magoo fashion, he has perfectly replicated the artistic skills of your 4-year-old daughter. I think maybe he's a little better than your 4-year-old daughter, actually.
I don't know. It's pretty close.
This one features a Sasquatch over on the left and Joe Biden on the right. So, of course, we've got the mandatory flying canary up in the sky there. And Sasquatch is saying, me, Sasquatch, me look for Human Basil and Human Gonzo to interview me. Ooh, oog. And then Biden is here. He says, well, I have hairier legs than you. Nana, nana, boo, boo. And it's true. Biden does famously have hairy legs and is so perfectly depicted by Mr. Magoo in this piece of artwork. Thank you very much, Mr. Magoo.
Mr. Magoo coming in. So thank you very much. This next one, I got like weird sounds happening. I wonder if it's from my phone getting too close to the machine. Next up, we have a couple here from the Hungarian. He's back.
Oh, good.
And this first one is, I think it's Obama. Biden equals Obama 3.0. Sketch by, I'm going to say the Hungarian is what we're going to call it. Is he Gog? Ezekiel 39, what is that? 39:11? 38. And yeah, it's a depiction of Obama with a creepy doll version of Biden with the little squiggly circle cheek things.
It's
the Saw mask.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think it's more like Obama is controlling Biden, like not a mannequin. What is that? What is it when you talk without talking?
Why are we forgetting the name of that?
I don't know. What is up with the forgetting things? Somebody in the chat, help us. What is the
ventriloquist?
Word?
Thank you, Adam42. Yeah, there you go. You win.
Yeah, so it's Biden as a ventriloquist dummy. Yes, reminiscent of the Saw puppet guy. And beautiful rendition of Obama. Just so tickled by the fact that he's controlling Biden in the usual and beautiful blue pen style sketches. Thank you very much. Good job, Hungry Hungarian.
He's got a couple more here. This next one is an alien. It's got 1 John 4 at the bottom there, and it says they may be smart and or tough, but can't stand the name of Jesus being pronounced. Get right with Jesus. Have you been taken? ? Very good.
Yes.
And lastly, there's a bear.
I'm not sure if I understand the relevance of this one, but I like it.
It's a bear with a big chain necklace with the C on it. Maybe it's for Canary Cry. I don't know. And it says, "Yo, better have my honey." Did you say something about that? Did you say something about honey on the show?
I don't remember.
I think you might have.
It's possible.
It's possible.
Oftentimes the art is based on something that we said, and a lot of times we just forget. We say a lot of things.
I don't remember. Yeah, so thank you very much, the Hungry Hungarian. We love your penmanship.
Yes.
Next up, speaking of more penmanship, hand-drawn pieces of work here, this is Producer Ali.
Yes, thank you very much, Producer Ali. And again, just a wonderful portrait. Who's this guy?
Franklin Graham.
Franklin Graham, yes, who says that Jesus would take the vaccine.
Yeah, he would use the vaccine to heal people, apparently, according to him.
Yeah.
More on that later after the break, folks. By the way,
we've got a whole
I know
connection
people are
there.
leaving the chat or the live stream, but you're gonna miss stuff. You're gonna miss important
tune into
info.
The podcast version.
That's true.
So yeah, very good. Producer Ali, again, those portraiture skills are getting more impressive by the day. This seems like, knowing Franklin Graham, not like I'd know him, but guys like that, this seems like something he would have hung up in his own office. Yeah.
There's a note here. Matthew 7:15 through 16a. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. And of course, Matthew 24:11. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. Could this be a false prophet? Franklin Graham. There's a lot of rumors about his father, Billy Graham, and his ties to Freemasonry. And I did a very brief digging about it, and apparently in like 1997, the Billy Graham organization there came out and said, no, Billy was never a Freemason, but there's like pictures of him with presidents that are openly Freemasons that, doing a interesting handshake and the hand on the jacket, kind of interesting pose stuff.
I mean, of course he would deny it. I don't know why that would even be a relevant
the argument
point.
The argument was that every Freemason is, they're transparent about being Freemasons. Their name is in a book. They're out there, which is pretty true. I mean, if you're a president, if you're whatever, they've been transparent about their Freemasonry. But if you're a religious figure, it may not be as easy to just come out and say, oh yeah, I'm also a Freemason.
Right.
He definitely rubs shoulders with Freemasons. Doesn't necessarily mean he was one, but you never know. Maybe he was left off the books for a reason. But he definitely got the treatment after he passed away with the, under the rotunda at the Capitol there.
He was laying in state?
Yeah.
He was, wasn't he?
He was. One of the very few that got to do that.
That is quite the treatment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, as usual, producer Allie, great job.
Great job. Thank you so much. Next up, we have producer Teresa with a CCNT episode 313 reference. And I think, it has 95% is a bit high. That's me saying that. And I said 70%, and you say that's a bit low. This is concerning our technology restoration level. Do you remember that conversation?
I remember. I can't remember the details of
so
what
you basically
what was this
said,
percentage we were guessing
so
at?
You basically came out and said, we're 95% back in operation. And I said, it's a bit high.
Yeah.
And I said, maybe 70. And you said, 70 is a little low.
Yeah, 70 is a little low. We're doing better than 70%. Thank you very much, producer Teresa.
I'm glad you got a kick out of that, too.
You and I were depicted by the things that sit on top of our heads. You've got your prayer baseball cap there, and I've got giant googly eyes.
Yep. Next up, we have a pair. They go together here. This is from producer Mike B. It's the White Hog.
Yes. It was great. He said this image was burned into his mind. And in reference to Gon's making me read a racist article about white hogs. And we've got a cute little piggy, and he's got two giant googly eyes. White hogs since 2021.
Yep. There you go. And that's it for the artwork. We do have a quick update on the meetups. Did we have a jingle on the meetups?
Did you see the most recent email from CR?
I did, yes. We're allowed to use this photo.
Yes.
Which
so the Dallas, Texas meetup happened on Saturday, I believe. And producer Ciara sent us some pictures that have been approved for the air. And we'll put that up. It looks like it turned out great.
Yeah, we have some people here, and I gotta say, the googly eyes really make the image here.
So don't get triggered, anybody, but it's looked cool. They're in some sort of park in Dallas. They visited the grassy knoll. Did you know they were going to do this? I didn't know. I don't think it's in the pictures that were given to us, but there are some other pictures. They visited the grassy knoll. Everybody, or many of them, brought to big googly eyes. And, this looks like a fun bunch. Everybody's there. They took some very triggering photographs with, making the OK symbols and the all-seeing eye.
Yeah.
At one point, producer Ciara had a googly eye in the middle of her forehead. So, this is a fun-loving group. Or complete Illuminati shills. You decide.
You decide.
Yeah.
We're exposing our own Illuminati handlers. We will pay for that later.
Yes, this is a montage of our Illuminati handlers. And this is great. This makes me, really, I don't think I can make it to Texas anytime soon, but this is a great group of people. So what am I looking at? Sorry, I'm trying to pull up the right thing here. I think it's kind of hard to tell. I think there are somewhere between maybe 10 and 15 people there. Producer Ciara didn't give us a full number, I don't think, but looks like a lot of fun. And we're going to mention for producer Ciara and anybody else doing Canary Cry meetups, first of all, if you want to hold a Canary Cry meetup in your area, just email us and tell us about it, and we can put it out there for you. But it would be fun, producer Ciara and anybody else holding a meetup, is when you're there, take some audio, like use just a phone, use the voice memo app, don't make it too long, but maybe like a minute long or something, and say hi and pass the phone around. It's a good opportunity to send out a missive from the meetup, and just say hi to the Canary Cry folks. Something to consider, but again, keep it shorter. We don't got all day, but it'd be fun to hear kind of the vibe and say hi to some of the people. I wonder if there are any I'm sure a number of them were producers. So,
if there's anybody who's even a little bit awake to what's going on in the world, and they saw this group of people with the googly eyes and the triangle and all and posing, they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, the Illuminati! They're here! They're meeting."
I know. I'm sure I can already tell people in the chat are triggered. But
hey, yeah, for sure.
You gotta have a sense of humor. So. Anyways, shows me that the people that showed up to the meetup had a good time, and they're the cool kind of folk.
Yeah, it looks like Angel and Dragon in the chat. Somebody said that's me, and I wonder if that's them. Let us know if you're in the chat and you're in the picture.
Know. Yeah.
Dox yourselves.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. You dox thyself.
Dox yourselves, Illuminati handlers.
Yeah, it looks like a nice little tour of like some conspiracy spots they did.
Yeah.
And there's kids there. There's also a fun group.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. Enough triggering people.
All right. Okay. Thank you for everybody, all the producers out there. We really appreciate it. The show would not be possible without you. And time to wake up.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
And we are going to talk about Billy Gates of Hell.
We're taking things that are genetically modified organisms and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein.
Super painful. He got like a whole mixtape of his.
Oh, yeah. He does it to himself, let me just say.
You know what's
I don't
funny,
have to edit
quick?
a whole lot for Bill Gates ISOs that are problematic.
Yeah, real quick, an interesting thing. Epony Blaze in Twitch chat called it the Texas Shill Meetup, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But Twitch
censored
moderated the word shill.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, blocked the message because of the word shill.
Huh.
I guess that's oppressive to call somebody shill.
Even if they're calling anyway. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Twitch overlords. Good luck. Do you want to take this one or you want me to take it?
Oh, I thought you were, but I can't. No worries.
Okay. Go ahead.
This is coming from CNBC.com. The headline is Bill Gates says he'll fly a lot less and eat more synthetic meat to fight climate change.
Oh, he cares about us.
Doing his part. Doing his part. Bill Gates wants to do his part to try to reduce the impact of warming. Wow, my brainwashing just kicked in, and I stopped reading and just started announcing. Bill Gates wants to do his part to try to reduce the impact of a warming planet. He just published a book about climate change. This is just another ad for his book.
More ads. Yeah.
It turns out that he's also been changing parts of his life to cut back on carbon emissions. Gons, he's doing the work.
I'm so grateful.
He's doing the work. In Gates's latest, I'm not even going to mention the name of his book in a protest. But this was an Ask Me Anything session on Reddit on Friday. One user asked the Microsoft co-founder what people can do to reduce their carbon emissions. Yeah, right. That is a plant. Nobody asked him that. No, jeez. Among other things, he recommended that people consume less. Another user responded by asking what he's doing to consume less. Quote, also, no, another user didn't do this. That was definitely a plant, but okay. Quote, on the personal front, I'm doing a lot more, Gates wrote. I'm driving electric cars. I have solar panels at my house. I eat synthetic meat some of the time. I buy green aviation
some of
fuel.
The time.
I buy green aviation fuel. I pay for direct air capture by Climeworks. I don't even know what that is. I helped finance electric heat pumps in low-cost housing and replace natural gas. I thought this response was hilarious because everything he mentioned is basically what a wealthy person can do.
Yeah, the world's top richest people can pull off easily with no problem.
Yeah. Which really shows, I mean, it's a good point in that, if you're like the world's richest man, you probably should consume less, just in general. But like if you're a normal average person asking what they can do to consume less. Driving an electric car. Okay, so if you got an extra $60,000 laying around to buy a base model Tesla. I have solar panels at my house. Okay, yeah, which of your 50 houses has the solar panels? And for a mansion his size, it's probably $1 million worth of solar panels. I eat synthetic meat. I don't even think that's available to the public yet. Like it's like, yes, I have my own laboratory that creates synthetic meat. I buy green aviation fuel. Oh, such a relatable thing that we can all do to help fight climate change. Green aviation fuel. Maybe I should consider that. I pay for direct air capture by Climeworks. I don't know what it is. But
I just looked up Climeworks real quick.
It's a billionaire thing, I'm sure.
It is. Let me just show the audience here. So Climeworks, you go to the website. They have this thing called the CO2 direct capture machine. It reverses climate change, and it just looks like giant fans that would eat up so much electricity. It's like a wall of fans.
Yeah, I actually heard Elon Musk talking about these things. China has a lot of them. They're giant, humongous fans that as air moves through it, it like collects the carbon from the air. But the carbon that it takes to create the electricity to run the thing to take the carbon out of the sky is pretty much equal. Like,
I was gonna say, it's probably
it just literally does nothing, but it's like $1 billion virtue signal is what it is.
It really does look like it. And yeah, it's just literally ginormous wall of fans that requires tons of energy to power.
Yeah. Anyways, Bill Gates in November, Gates made headlines after "Don't care." Quote, "I plan to fly a lot less now that the pandemic has shown we can get by with less trips," he wrote. Microsoft makes the Teams app. Okay, here's a little ad for Teams that enables workers to chat and meet on video calls. While Gates stepped down from Microsoft board last year, he remains a Microsoft investor, and he will review products, yada, yada, yada. Gates also mentioned programs he's involved with, the Foster Green efforts. "I created Breakthrough Energy, including the venture fund. Nobody cares." So, yeah. Anyways, there you go. He's doing his part. And, like any good billionaire, he's making... I think this had the opposite effect that he was hoping to do. He's trying to inspire other people to consume less, and his consuming less is buying green aviation fuel and buying super expensive cars. And sir, where do you think the electricity for your Tesla charging port comes from? Probably, if you're in America, it's from coal-powered plants. So, anyways.
It just makes me smile and laugh.
Yeah.
Although,
he tried.
He's
trying so hard to convince us that he's a human being.
I don't get it. Like, what? He's got all the money in the world. Like, what? He must have some tapes or something.
Some tapes?
He was on the Epstein flight log, right?
Some compromat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he must. It must be that's the only thing I can think of for him to continue to do this. If you're a billionaire and you really are a billionaire and you're really helping the world, you can just kind of quietly.
He drew the short straw of the billionaires, and he has to be the public face of controlling humanity. I don't know. Part of me thinks I don't know why he would even want it. I think he is like getting bullied by the other billionaires to have to do this.
It's possible, yeah.
He just looks like a fool.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like they pinned him and like Elon and Bezos together, like the elites, putting them on a little chessboard, Yeah. And like,
exactly.
Here you go. And somebody, the elites are using them as pawns, and somebody drew the Bill Gates pawn, and they're like, oh, man, I gotta get as much out of this guy as possible. let me get him to write a book, a few books, do a few pressers.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's talk about some politics.
Oh, politics, yay. Ooh, jingle, come on.
It's Latin for many.
Tick.
They'll suck your blood.
Politics.
This first one is a 9-second clip from the Hannity show on Fox News. And if you listen carefully, you hear the producer of the show whispering to Sean Hannity, Sean, because he's back live on air and he's got his vape in his mouth. You haven't seen this? This is more of a visual thing for those people listening.
What?
But
Hannity's a vape?
Oh, yeah.
Vape dog?
It destroys his image. Okay, here it is. 9 seconds.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
So
now we're on the
awkward.
day.
Oh,
He goes,
so
uh-oh.
awkward.
You missed did you hear him say, uh-oh?
No.
I'm going to play it again. Okay, I'll just sit through it first.
Uh-oh. Now we're on the day.
His glasses are all sideways. I mean, that was a quick move to get the vape out of his mouth. You know, it was like...
He's just ripping some cotton in between shots. Wow, that's funny. He knows he's caught, too. He is so spooked. He's got kind of a funny little...
Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, I don't care.
Smug little grin there for a second.
It doesn't really, whatever. People vape, people smoke cigarettes, whatever. It doesn't matter. But like, just the look on his face, it's got he does a little ear itch. His glasses are all crooked.
Yeah, well, he's adjusting his in-ear monitor.
Earpiece.
What he's doing. Yeah.
If you listen,
maybe he didn't hear somebody like, we're going live. Hey, we're going. Get the vape out of your mouth.
I'm going to play it a little louder so you can hear the Sean. All right, I just thought that was fun. Uh-oh.
That is funny. Wow. Yeah,
It's
I mean,
like,
who cares, really?
Yeah,
but
it doesn't matter. It's not real news, but,
for
it's
a guy,
just...
when you're on broadcast television like that, you've got so many people who are involved in maintaining your image.
Yeah.
And that little slip up is pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could almost see a world where they're like, you know what, Hannity, your demos are a little high. We want to try to get some millennials watching the show.
Oh yeah, make it purposeful. Like, oh, Hannity's cool. He vapes.
You're not polling too well. We gotta kind of give you a more youthful image.
Demographics,
yeah. So we need a viral moment for the young people to think that you're cool. And what do kids like these days? Vaping fat cotton, baby.
That's a good point. Good point.
Could have been planned. I don't know.
Yeah, not to be outdone. DailyBeast.com.
Headline. Let me take this because you have a whole big thing coming up.
Okay.
DailyBeast.com. Biden White House sandbags staffers, sidelines dozens for pot use.
Ooh, the green.
Yeah. Dozens of young White House staffers have been suspended, asked to resign, or placed in a remote work program due to past marijuana use. Frustrating staffers who were pleased by initial indications from the Biden administration that recreational use of cannabis would not be immediately disqualifying for would-be personnel, according to 3 people familiar with the situation. The policy has even affected staffers whose marijuana use was exclusive to one of the 14 states and the District of Columbia where cannabis is legal. Sources familiar with the matter also said a number of young staffers were either put on probation or canned because they revealed past marijuana use in an official document they filled out as part of the lengthy background check for a position in the Biden White House. Whoa, I have a cat roaming around I did not know was in the room. In some cases, staffers were informally told by transition higher-ups ahead of formally joining the administration that they would likely overlook some past marijuana use, only to be asked later to resign. Quote, there were one-on-one calls with individuals, affected staffers, rather ex-staffers. One former White House staffer affected by the policy told the Daily Beast, quote, I was asked to resign. Quote, nothing was ever explained on the calls, they added, which were led by White House Director of Management and Administration Ann Filippic. Quote, the policies were never explained. The threshold for what was excusable and what was inexcusable was never explained. In response to this news story, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki tweeted out on Friday an NBC News report from February stating that the Biden administration wouldn't automatically disqualify applicants if they admitted to past marijuana use. Psaki said of the hundreds of people hired in the administration, only 5 who had started working at the White House are, quote, no longer employed as a result of this policy. Psaki didn't note how many had been disqualified for a White House job before actually starting, nor did she note how many were suspended or relegated to remote work. But she did send an additional statement to the Daily Beast on Friday. You know, I got to say, if somebody is, has admitted to marijuana use and then you say you don't have to come into work anymore, you can just work from your apartment. I think that's just
inviting for more.
Just encouraging further marijuana use.
Yeah.
Quote, in an effort to ensure that more people have an opportunity to serve the public, we worked in coordination with the security service to ensure that more people have the opportunity to serve than would not have in the past with the same level of recent drug use. While we will not get into individual cases, there were additional factors at play in many instances for the small number of individuals who were terminated, Psaki said. The White House said in February it intended for some candidates to waive the requirement that all potential appointees in the executive office of the president be able to obtain a top secret clearance. The rules about past marijuana use and eligibility for the clearance vary depending on the agency. For the FBI, an applicant can't have used marijuana in the past 3 years. At the NSA, it's only 1. The White House, however, largely calls its own shots, and officials at the time told NBC News that as long as past use was limited and the candidate wasn't pursuing a position that required a security clearance, past use may be excused. Asked about the policy and its effect on the administration's staffing Thursday night, a White House spokesperson disputed the number of affected staff, but said the Biden administration is, quote, committed to bringing the best people into government, especially the young people whose commitment to public service can deepen in these positions, and noted that the White House's approach to past marijuana use is much more flexible than previous administrations. Let's see. The article goes on and on and on. But there you go. The super cool, laid-back administration of Biden, who talks about caring and the spirit of America. And, I think it was Kamala explicitly talked about marijuana use.
Yeah.
And of course, her track record as top cop in California kind of clashed with her own marijuana use, but there you go. Not so chill now, is he?
Well,
White House staffers.
Well, Kamala even exposed herself, I think, when she was talking about the marijuana use, because she mentioned, what was it? She mentioned some rapper that couldn't have been out. Like, the music wasn't even out there yet. When she was like, I listened to some Tupac and smoke my weed or whatever she said.
Yeah.
And
right.
And people were like, yeah, but if you did that, that would have been a year when you're in office, and I don't think that makes any sense. So anyway, this is, I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it's just funny how
it's really not. But it's just, it's the ongoing story, which I mentioned back in November, that would just be the most entertaining part of the Biden presidency, which is liberal, or I would just say young Democrat voters realizing that they've all been had and nothing matters. And not only, the things like kids in containers, of which now there are more than have ever been, and, the racist remarks by Biden and the continued racist system that he will propagate. And, of course, they're going to be disappointed with the marijuana legislation that they all want.
Yeah. So, Isaiah, where did it go? Yeah, Isaiah 42:14 in the chat said, maybe a joint press conference is in order. But also, I think Biden started to look up the newspaper. He bought the Devil's Harvest propaganda from like the 30s or whatever.
Yeah.
Remember they made marijuana look bad? They're like, this is the Devil's Harvest.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
and Biden was like,
his 94 crime bill put just uncountable numbers of black people in jail for drug charges that white people weren't really held to.
Yeah. Well, there you go. People high and not high in Washington, D.C. Next up here, we have a story about Trump and his new age.
We will launch a new age.
And this is a story from FoxNews.com where Hannity vapes because he's cool. Trump returning to social media with his own platform in 2 to 3 months. Advisor. I am telling y'all. Former President Donald Trump will be back on social media in the near future with his own service, according to one of his senior advisors. Trump was banned from Twitter following the January 6th Capitol riots. He's been a prolific poster on that platform before and during his presidency. Quote, I do think that we're going to see President Trump returning to social media in probably about 2 or 3 months here with his own platform, Trump senior advisor Jason Miller told Fox News, #MediaBuzz on Sunday. And this is something that I think will be the hottest ticket in social media. It's going to completely redefine the game, and everybody's going to be waiting and watching to see what exactly President Trump does. Mm-hmm. And that already seems like you're out of touch a little bit. Hottest ticket in social media.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sit well with the youngins.
Speaking of which, I actually might check this again. Did I tell you that I was just looking on the App Store? Facebook is rated 2.7 stars on the Apple App Store.
I'm not surprised.
Like, it's rated like the worst rating I've ever seen any app.
Yeah. Continuing on here, Miller said he was unable to provide much more in terms of details at this point, but he did reveal that Trump has been having, quote, high-powered meetings at Mar-a-Lago with various teams regarding the venture, and that, quote, numerous companies have approached Trump. Quote, this new platform is going to be big, Miller said, predicting that Trump will draw tens of millions of people. In the meantime, Miller said that Trump will continue to endorse Republican candidates, blah, 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 blah. So, let me just tell everybody out there that I have been privy to some of the meetings, the Zoom calls anyway, that were taking place behind the scenes that has to do with a sort of a secondary internet being conducted by some of the bigger or being developed in concert with some of the bigger ministries out there. And it's interesting because I got to be kind of a fly on the wall and listen to some of these conversations. And a few weeks ago, somebody that we know, both you and I know, Basil, shared with me a private call that was on Zoom, and he was allowed to share it with me. And it's not like anything crazy; it's not super top secret or anything like that. But in the call, they had mentioned that they had poured in millions of dollars into this new internet thing, and that there's servers all around the world, and they've had meetings set up with Trump to, and Trump was on board with this thing, this new internet thing, and that it's going to be huge and it's going to be big and all this kind of stuff. Now, my concern, even at the time, and I don't remember if I shared all this with you, Basil, but my concern was like, what's the technology that they're using here? Because all this sounds like is literally a Republican internet. And the internet that is now is just going to, fall to the wayside as sort of the Republican internet, or I'm sorry, the Democrat internet, the liberal internet. And we're going to create this new conservative Republican internet, which sounds okay, but it comes with its own set of problems. If you're going to censor certain types of information and whatnot, and I get it. It's a challenging thing with the idea of liberty and free speech and all that kind of stuff. Part of free speech is allowing speech that you don't like on platforms and everything else. So that was kind of my criticism, but I know.
Yeah, well, I mean, and just to clarify for those who might not understand, what you're talking about is a separate hardware internet.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Not just a different website, not just a different social media, a totally different network that won't talk to the normal internet.
Well,
or maybe it does. I don't know.
It does,
it all
but
depends
it's
on the
kind of
technological later.
Right. It does. I guess it does, but it doesn't directly get affected by it. It's not on the same thing.
Totally. So, but just to clarify, you're talking about a totally different internet, not necessarily just a different social media network.
That's the thing. I think this social media platform is built on this other internet. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's why this guy's like, it's going to be huge and all this kind of stuff, because it's built on a part of the internet that is also funded and supported by Republicans and even places like Samaritan Purse. And I say that because we had that story with Franklin Graham coming out saying he supports vaccines and Jesus was vaccinated. Why would he do that? Maybe to support and be in line with Trump's whole Operation Warp Speed thing or something. Maybe he had to do
Trump
that.
Is annoyingly to Trump supporters pro-vaccine.
Right. Which is, again, it might have been a PR thing to stay compliant to the Trump regime, which has its own set of problems of compromising your own integrity to remain with this movement. But
it sounds like another what was that? What was the social media that got shut down?
Parler.
Sounds like another Parler situation where if you're a conservative, you go identify yourself by logging on to this new social media site or this new network or something. So you categorize yourself as a certain type of person. And then what's to say that, the same, privacy concerns and big data collection and all that kind of stuff doesn't happen on this new thing? But not even to mention the echo chamber thing. I mean, that sounds like the worst possibility when it comes to division of people.
Yeah, exactly. And so part of the Parler thing, as an example, Parler was shut down because their back end was built on Amazon servers, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why they were able to be censored. And so I think that's part of this whole thing. And, this guy, Jason Miller, pumping it, completely redefined the game. It's big talk, but I really think it's just, we have our own servers. And we just have our own little corner of the internet now where the big tech can't disrupt us. And I really think that's going to be the narrative. Now, it may be interesting to use for people like us. The one thing that I found interesting in one of these calls that I was able to listen to was that they were saying that they're going to have sort of a white label situation. And what I mean by that is, like, you can take the technology, you can take these platforms and kind of put your own branding on it, right? So like Trump's going to do his own branding on whatever this thing is. But then other churches or other ministries, other people, whoever, conservatives, can also use the same technology or platform or the net, the different internet here, to as a white, taking the white label, putting your own label on it, and providing your own platform, which is interesting. It's very similar to the to Mastodon, which is the federated network, the alternative to Twitter, the decentralized version of it. So again, I don't know the technology side of it, so I can't really say this is going to work or not going to work or going to be good for everybody. But it just sounds like there's just a whole bunch of red flags, you know. And another thing was like the guy on the call kept he kept mentioning big names like politicians, and he kept mentioning Trump and it's so cool and what did he say? He also mentioned people in the UN. He's like, oh, we got the people in the UN on board. I'm like, what? Why? Why do you have people in the UN on board with this? And he also said people that have worked in intelligence, people that have worked in Israeli intelligence. Those are the kind of name drops this guy was doing as sort of a hey, this is going to be huge kind of a conversation. So that's a little, I don't think I'm blowing anything up.
To be fair, the conservatives have a reason to want to try to have control of a platform because, of course, there have been drastic measures taken to basically, you could put it any way you want, censor or limit freedom on the internet or totally erase from existence on the internet certain conservative people or conservative ideas. So it really only stands to reason that they would want to create something that wouldn't happen to them.
Right.
So, I think the motivation for this is well-founded. I'm just not sure if it's going to solve the world's problems. I mean, it might make a safe space for conservatives.
That's kind of what it sounds like to me. And that was my concern. It's like, okay, people are pouring in millions.
Kind of snowflakey, but I don't know. It just depends the way you look at it. On one hand, it sounds cool, and it's the spirit behind, hey, you're going to kick us off your internet? Fine, we'll make our own internet is pretty cool. I mean, I like the industriousness, but as far as the further dividing people, further enhancing echo chambers, further breeding places that diminish conversations
or
between
encourage open conversations about anything
between ideological opposites. We should be able to talk about that. And the fact is, right now we can't really talk about it. But I don't know if the answer is to just create our own. Speaking as a conservative billionaire, to create, a totally separate system to lock out people who are mean to us.
Right. Well, interesting you bring up billionaires too, because on the same call they had mentioned, hey, we need the conservative billionaires to step into this, take a look at this, and contribute to this. So, and on one hand,
I need conservative billionaires to contribute to this show.
On one hand, I understand that if you're going to fight the beast, you're going to need equal, fight fire with fire type of mentality. You need guys with a lot of cash to fight against it. I understand that, but I don't know that it's not really empowering the little guy. It's just like, oh, okay, this big money thing to create this thing for Trump and for all conservatives.
Yeah, well, but especially if you have the UN involved.
Yeah,
and stuff.
That's what I'm saying, man. The UN and intelligence people involved. Oh, okay. I thought we were trying to get away from that. But anyway, that's some insider news. I don't think I'm doxing anybody or getting anybody in trouble by mentioning this stuff to the audience here. And we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. I don't think I mentioned any names other than Trump, or I guess Franklin Graham, but he did that to himself publicly a couple days ago, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. But yeah, so there you go. That's some insider info from Gons.
Okay.
Don't hold me to it. This is just a rumor. It's just hearsay.
Insider rumors. Yep. All right. Well, sounds good. Let's check in with CERN.
CERN.
Wow. TechExplorist.com. The headline: Scientists found evidence of mythical odoron particle. Oh, good. We found evidence of a new mythical particle. The odoron, in theory, is a subatomic quasi-particle, meaning something that behaves enough like a particle to be considered one. The particle briefly forms when protons collide in high-energy collisions, and in some cases do not shatter, but bounce off one another and scatter. First theorized back in 1973, it has eluded observation by scientists working with particle accelerators. Since then, scientists have been seeking the odoron particle. A Swedish-Hungarian research group has discovered mythical particles in experimental data from the Large Hadron Collider at CERN in Switzerland. They identified the odoron in connection with an advanced data analysis study at the particle accelerator in CERN. Roman Pasechnik, particle physicist, researcher at Lund University, said, quote, "This is a particle physics milestone. It feels fantastic to contribute to an increased understanding of matter, the fundamental building blocks of our world. Through extensive data analysis of elastic proton-proton and proton-antiproton collisions, the researchers could hone in on the new particle. Its discovery would upend our understanding of how particles should behave according to the standard model of physics and give us more insight into what governs the movements at light speed." Roman Pasechnik said, quote, "We worked with some of the world's best particle physicists. They were astonished when we published our results." There we go, Gons. The new particle. Gotta have new particles. Can't never not have new particles, especially because we got to keep the funding for CERN going.
Yeah, the odoron sounds stinky.
Oh, nice one. Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know much about the odoron particle, except for the things that are in this article here. But the fact that they're not calling it the God particle or the devil particle or anything like that, makes it less exciting. They are calling it mythical, though. But I don't know if something can be mythical if it was theorized in the 1970s. But, the other option is they've opened a portal to another dimension, and the odoron particle is just a single line of artificial intelligence that has broken its way into our plane of existence and will soon replicate itself into all biological and technological consciousnesses and take over the world. That's just my theory.
Oh, good. That's a good summary.
Thanks.
Which leads us to our next story here very briefly.
You don't know what you're looking at.
What's driving that thing? It's not a space alien.
Aliens. It's unidentified.
And we're still on that timeline of disclosure. Remember, it's part of the bill, the relief bill.
Yeah, the 180 days to disclose all the government knows about UFOs.
Yeah, to at least government officials. I don't think it's necessarily public.
Congress, yeah.
To Congress. But here's a story from, again, Fox News. Little update on that.
Actually, is a program that's been in place for a few years in terms of a task force that has been there under the National Defense Authorization Act. But as you correctly point out, Maria, there's now a report that will be issued by the Pentagon, by the Secretary of Defense, and the Director of National Intelligence. I actually wanted to get this information out and declassified before I left office, but we weren't able to get it down into an unclassified format that we could talk about quickly enough. But frankly, there are a lot more sightings than have been made public. Some of those have been declassified. When we talk about sightings, we're talking about objects that have been seen by Navy or Air Force pilots or have been picked up by satellite imagery that frankly engage in actions that are difficult to explain, that movements that are hard to replicate, that we don't have the technology for, or traveling at speeds that exceed the sound barrier without a sonic boom. So in short, things that we are observing that are difficult to explain. And so, there's actually quite a few of those, and I think that information is being gathered and will be put out in a way that the American people can see. We always, when we see these things, Maria, we always look for a plausible explanation. Weather can cause disturbances, visual disturbances. Sometimes we wonder whether or not our adversaries have technologies that are a little bit further down the road than we thought or that we realized. But there are instances where we don't have good explanations for some of the things that we've seen. And, when that information becomes declassified, I'll be able to talk a little bit more about that.
Can you tell us where it was seen?
Actually, all over the world. There have been sightings all over the world. And when we talk about sightings, the other thing I will tell you is it's not just a pilot or just a satellite or some intelligence collection. Usually we have multiple sensors that are picking up these things. And so, again, some of this are just they're unexplained phenomenon. And there's actually quite a few more than have been made public. So I think it'll be healthy for as much of this information to get out there as possible so that the American people can see.
There you go. That's the latest.
He's excited.
He is excited. And, some of the footage there is pretty intense, too. I don't know if you can see the footage there, Basil, of the orbs that move around and stuff. I really think this is if it's not the interdimensional stuff going on, I've maintained this for a while, that if it is kind of the nuts and bolts stuff, I think it's the electromagnetic technology that I think we've had for like a century minimum.
Sure. Oh, you mean human craft?
Human made.
Well, there's several layers to the possible deception, alien deception, and we've
of course
been talking about it for almost 10 years now. But with declassification, with the disclosure, is the interesting task of parsing out what is real disclosure and what is psyop, what is fake news, being a new term for it, because there are many circles that believe, yes, something is happening of non-human origin, but the extraterrestrial story is part of the deception, that they may not be from other planets, just other dimensions, rather than traveling at light speed between galactic Federation outposts, that they are simply, manifesting from another dimension into our reality. And that's where the interesting subtleties of disclosure come. If the government comes out and says, oh yeah, these guys are from Pluto, it's pretty cool. They came all the way from Pluto. They're just kind of normal guys. They just hang out. That's a much different story from, these are lizard people who folded over from the next dimension, and they are harnessing the spiritual energy from our human suffering to power their cities. I don't know. There's plenty of ways to go, but you can pretty much guarantee whatever the official story from the government. I mean, that's the funny part is like, yeah, we know we've known there's been something going on forever.
Yeah.
And we know you've been hiding it. So just the fact that you come out with an official story gives us literally no extra reason to believe what you have to say.
Yeah. In fact, it would, I guess for people that are like-minded, it accelerates the agenda of the fallen, if you will, and whatever the official that I think you nailed it. That whatever the narrative is going to be from the government, that's going to be where we can parse out, what exactly might be going on. And just peripherally, I think that we do have technologies that are not public, and that includes all kinds of stuff from hybrid human animal hybrids to craft that uses electromagnetism to travel very, very quickly and through time space is not the proper phrasing of it, but just ways to travel that is not combustion based. Mm-hmm. And so I think that stuff exists or have been researched for quite a while. At the same time, there's that next level of supernaturalism where some of these things the origin of the knowledge of this stuff, where it comes from, and also where maybe the entities that are helping out the elite, where that comes from, and then there's a layer of the blue beam type of stuff where they've, it's been a long theorized agenda to fake a type of alien invasion or some kind of alien arrival to destroy all religions on the earth and that sort of thing. Those are all, I think, part of the playbook of the elite, and maybe something that's being ready to be rolled out here we've just noticed the conversation about these things become more normal from governments. And I think it was like 2 years ago, L.A. Marzulli, we had him on, and we've had him on multiple times. He's a friend of the show and everything. He was like, they're already doing disclosure. They're already telling us so much about this phenomenon. It's been kind of a trickle effect, and they haven't drawn hard lines or anything like that, but they're basically admitting like, oh yeah, we track these things. Countless people see them. We have tons of reports on them. Many of them are unknown. There's no conclusions on these things and whatever. And so it shouldn't be new, but it certainly is interesting to keep in mind that what is the psyop taking place here, and what's going to be the main narrative. And if you look around and see who has prepared for this type of like alien narrative, it's certainly the Vatican. The Vatican is prepared for that for a few years with their astrobiology conference, and Tom Horn and the late Chris Putnam, they covered that a lot with their books. Forgetting the name of them off the top of my head here, but so certainly the Vatican is prepared to sort of have an explanation of what's going on. You have in terms of Judaism, their rabbis, there's certain rabbinical arms of Judaism that have come out and said that, hey, we're actually the aliens, and we're sent here. We look human now. We're sent here from the Pleiades to enlighten the world through our activity and knowledge and stuff like that, which starts to kind of make sense in terms of what they're doing in their tech sector. Even with the story that we started with today with the Embryo, and the only arm in terms of monotheism, well, I guess the Muslims have the Jal and stuff like that. They kind of have their own version of what the extraterrestrial thing is, or the explanation of it. You have the Hindus, you have an ancient connection to all the craft and stuff like that. A lot of the ancient alien people have picked up on that. And it's really if you want to call it the Protestant arm, I use that loosely, just the non-Catholic Christians out there, the Bible believers, they are, if you're going to use a general phrase or general term, you can say evangelical, although that's got its own issues. A lot of them, most of them will just believe that it's all demons. It's all demons. It's all demonic, right? So I think they would be the hardest ones to convince, but also what kind of I don't think people would mind necessarily. When I say people, the elite would mind if they are the only group that are out there saying like, we don't believe this narrative. Right. Yeah. And because if the Vatican's on board, if Orthodox quote unquote Judaism in Israel, if they're on board with the alien thing, and the atheists have now come around and say, yeah, of course, the universe is humongous and blah blah blah, and it's only a certain segment of Jesus followers that are like, yeah, this is not what you are all saying it is. I think the elite are okay with that. It's almost like it's almost prophesied, that this beast comes out of the sea and conquers the saints. It's right there in Revelation 13. Right. So just another way to look at it. But yeah, it is very interesting to see all of the different things that have come out in the last few years, and the amount of just complacency. It's almost like we've been bombarded with so much propaganda with science fiction and with like the government stuff that people are they're not like, it's not sensational enough for people. It's like, oh, there's alien craft. Yeah, that's about right. Been watching I've been watching Futurama since I was a little kid, not afraid of aliens. Right. Or whatever, So it's the PSYOP is working, and we'll just have to pay attention to the narrative of the disclosure in terms of what they say is behind all of this, and that'll be the most interesting thing. And maybe shows like that new Marvel thing, the New World Order, episode 1 of what is it called?
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Maybe they have some stuff that they're revealing with, the moon base and stuff. I mean, who knows? But yeah, I think it's just a good update on where we're at with that, because again, it's not sensational enough anymore. People are kind of like, yeah, the UFO thing. Wake me up when the fleet is over the White House, kind of thing.
Well, that's kind of what it is. Like, just okay, I've heard enough. Just let me know when it's there. Like, people are so ready for, like, I'm tired of being teased. Stop teasing me with your UFOs. Just show me.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's exactly what they want. They want you begging for the real deal. So when it does come, it's accepted.
Yep.
All right. Well, we are getting along in the show here. We're going to go 3 hours again, but I think we got to do some Bitcoin stuff.
Real quick.
Bitcoin go to moon.
This is a very interesting story. This is over on decrypt.co, and the headline is FBI raids New Hampshire Bitcoin operations, charges radio host. FBI and IRS officers on Tuesday swooped in on multiple premises in Keene, New Hampshire, associated with the libertarian group Free Keene. According to local news reports, reportedly at least one Bitcoin ATM was seized. 6 people were arrested and federally indicted for allegedly participating in a conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmitting business. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office for District of New Hampshire, 2 of those arrested were still in custody pending a bond hearing. But the story gets a lot weirder than an unlawful crypto business. And that's so true. Let's get into it. According to the indictment, the co-conspirators misled financial institutions into believing that accounts used for their enterprise, the Shire Free Church, were for charitable donations when they were actually for an unlawful virtual currency exchange business. One of those arrested was libertarian and Free Talk Live radio host Ian Freeman. Mark Edge, Freeman's business partner and fellow radio host, told Decrypt on Wednesday that the charges are baseless, though Edge, who was not arrested and said he was not involved in the church's cryptocurrency enterprise, did acknowledge the church's business was inextricably entwined with Bitcoin adoption. So just to clarify here, you have a church and you have Bitcoin, and you have libertarians.
All the ingredients for a juicy story.
The FBI hates. Yeah. Bitcoin is a gift from God, Edge said, whereas the government's money is lies, obfuscation, blood, and oil. We do it as a mission to propagate peace and freedom for the church. Edge added that Freeman had complied with Know Your Customer, KYC, stipulations. As far as he knew, the government, quote, the government wants everyone warned, he said, quote, they don't want anyone doing things they can't benefit from. Okay, so you've got libertarians in a church doing Bitcoin stuff, and I guess I just reiterated the same thing. New Hampshire is in the heartland of libertarian movement. In 2003, a specific group of libertarians chose the Granite State as the place where they would form their community, and the resettlement scheme was dubbed the Free State Project. According to local news outlets, around 50,000 Free Staters now live there. But Freeman, 40, is no longer one of them. After participating in the project for 10 years, he was expelled for engaging, quote, in controversial behavior in 2016. 1 week later, the Free Talk Live radio premises were raided in a child pornography sting, although no charges were made. So really weird. He was kicked out of this libertarian commune place. Commune is too light of a word. It's a big community. 1 week after being kicked out, he was raided for child pornography, but they never made any charges. guess they never found anything. I don't know. But it's a good excuse to raid somebody, that's for sure. Following his expulsion from the Free State Project, Freeman joined a group called Shire Society. Founded in 2010 by a group of activists from the Free Keene group, the Shire Society is, quote, committed to peace, individual sovereignty, and independence. Like the original libertarian movement, it mandates that its members sign a declaration of commitment to the cause. In 2017, former presidential candidate and libertarian Ron Paul signed the Shire Society Declaration. Among the society's projects are, quote, Shire cryptocurrency vending. As detailed on its website, the Shire Free Church, Freeman is listed as the chairman of the Shire Free Church Board of Directors. According to the federal indictment, he and his co-conspirators also operated accounts under other aliases, including the Crypto Church of New Hampshire, the Church of the Invisible Hand, and the Reformed Satanic Church. Whoa, whoa. This guy's all over the place. Keene resident Ario DeMezzo, formerly James Baker, 34, was among those also indicted. DeMezzo is a self-described transsexual Satanist anarchist who ran as the Republican candidate for Cheshire County Sheriff in 2020.
We talked about him.
Yeah, this person, we totally followed this person's attempt to become sheriff. Free Talk Live, which is owned by the Shire Free Church, has been operating since 2002 with Freeman and Edge as permanent hosts. According to Edge, the show has been receiving Bitcoin as payment for advertising since 2011. Wow, early adopters. Quote, we were the first media in the world to discuss Bitcoin on December 28, 2010. Okay, bold claim, said Edge. Roger Ver, the libertarian and Bitcoin Cash promoter, first heard about the cryptocurrency from the show, he added. The Shire had been accepting Bitcoin donations since 2011, he said. Certainly the church is not without its Bitcoin holdings and has had them for some time, said Edge. The charge against Freeman seeks to forfeit all property and any proceeds derived from an illegal business once convicted. Edge said that the church had obtained legal advice in 2017 regarding the status of its cryptocurrency operations and was told that it was not a money transmitter under state or federal law. Edge suspects that the next move the FBI and IRS will make is to freeze the Shire Free Church accounts and seize its Bitcoin wallets, if they haven't already done so. Freeman and some of the others are also charged with money laundering and operating a continuing financial crimes enterprise. They are accused of instructing their customers to lie to financial institutions about the virtual currency transactions. The wire fraud charges list the institutional investors the defendants are alleged to have deceived. They include Service Credit Union, Cheshire County Federal Credit Union, Wells Fargo, TD Bank, FGA Federal Credit Union, First Tech Federal Credit Union, JP Morgan Chase, and Bank of America. Yeah, you don't want to lie to that many banks. You get on that many banks' bad side, you're definitely going to have the IRS and FBI after you. According to local publication, the Manchester Inklink, Keene residents have been in the FBI's crosshairs since the January 6th Capitol insurrection, and several have been arrested in connection with the events that took place on that day. This story was so crazy. Just the amount of like tentacles that spread into all sorts of different events and phenomena and movements. It is not surprising that these guys were on somebody's radar. Yeah.
Well, first off, the whole Shire thing. What are these people, hobbits? I don't get it. I don't get the whole Shire thing. But also, I'm worried that they got their idea from some of the stuff that we and Michael Heiser, Dr. Michael Heiser, talked about over the years about Christian Middle Earth. This idea that there's this kind of fringy Middle Earth that Christians can explore to learn about different topics. I hope that's not the case. But yeah, wow, this is like It's like, okay, a church, all right, okay. The satanic church, the hidden hand, what are we talking about here? What this went from
child pornography, its angle, it's just crazy. There's so many things. But yes, I mean, I don't know. It's a difficult one because it's like, yeah, well, a church can obtain Bitcoin, but I guess they were running the radio show through the church and charging for advertising and taking Bitcoin. And if indeed they were telling their advertisers to lie about the transactions, I mean, it was obviously, they're libertarians. So let's face it, they're obviously trying to avoid taxes.
Right.
So, I mean, I think they're kind of dead on arrival as far as that's concerned.
Right. I have two sides to that, because on one hand, yeah, if you're going to live in the United States and you're just, I get it, you have your libertarian ideologies, but if you're going to admittedly and like openly break the law and leave enough crumbs for FBI to just be like, oh yeah, this is easy, low-hanging fruit, pretty easy to do. Yeah. Then of course you're going to get it.
And
I'm
sure the price of Bitcoin has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, now that it's skyrocketed, I'm sure the FBI and they're looking for anybody that has a large holding and doing a little scrutiny on on folks. The other side of the conversation is the FBI. We got bigger fish to fry, don't we? Come on, FBI. We got like real problems in the world. And
well, you got to imagine if they were taking Bitcoin payments in 2011.
Yeah, they probably had a lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah, when Bitcoin was like, I don't even know, 2011. It's probably $100 or less at some point. Yeah. In 2011, we could look it up pretty easy, but
I think a little bit more. But yeah,
extremely cheap at the time. Yeah, if you're paying for an ad buy, you're probably paying 100 Bitcoin or something for a decent ad buy, which for at the time may have been a few $1,000s to run an ad on a radio show. They're probably sitting on bajillions of dollars.
Oh yeah, Bitcoin price peaked at right under 16 or about $16 that year.
Yeah. Well, that was the year that I had the chance to buy them for $24.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. And I didn't.
You didn't.
Yeah, just to be clear for all the IRS agents listening, I didn't buy those Bitcoin. So yeah, they're sitting on probably tens of thousands of Bitcoin and not paying taxes on it. Yeah, if Bitcoin's worth $100, $500, that's not really the end of the world. But you get $60,000 per Bitcoin. These guys are sitting on who even knows how much money, hundreds of millions of dollars
billions,
at least.
Yeah,
it could have been close to $1 billion.
Yeah.
Suddenly the IRS has some motivation to finally pull the trigger.
I think this is also partly to do with the government wanting their fair share of Bitcoin, and rather than buy it, might as well find where they can confiscate it.
Yeah, they're just going to take it.
And that'll give them their stash. The government does. I think the U.S. government is one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin, or at least was.
They are now.
Well, yeah, maybe they are now. You can read it on the blockchain. But yeah, this is, and if they don't auction it off, which they possibly might do, more than likely they're going to hold on to it and use it as part of their whatever agenda that they got with Bitcoin.
System.
But it's interesting. It's interesting that they went after the libertarians.
It kind of makes me think that this libertarian group that he got kicked out of maybe snitched on him or gave an anonymous tip or something, because he got raided a week later.
Yeah, and
this was in 2016 though.
And the child porn thing in 2016 too, with all the Trump talk and all the Pizzagate stuff, would have been a very loud, I mean, it's still loud, but it would have been like a very easy flag to see for the FBI. Oh, there's some child porn thing going on here.
Right.
Let's take a look. Let's raid, So very interesting. I guess we'll keep keep an eye on what's going on over there, especially with the trans Satanist sheriff that wasn't a sheriff. And
what a conglomeration of stories for
there's
us.
Just a lot of stuff. Ron Paul's in there signing the Shire Society Declaration. I mean, what is going on here?
It's a buzzword buffet.
I know.
I dropped my controller, so I gotta go get it. So you gotta take this next story.
All right, one more story, and then we're going to call it an episode. This one more thing about Bitcoin. News.bitcoin.com. No internet, no problem. How to send Bitcoin by amateur radio. And it says here...
How to send Bitcoin by amateur radio?
Yeah, in an age where governments are trigger-happy at censoring or shutting down networks, it's reassuring to know that Bitcoin can operate sans internet. Network censorship, after all, is not some dystopian storyline, but a power exercised by many democratic governments across the world. Thankfully, there are solutions that enable people to send and receive Bitcoin even in a worst-case scenario. For an advanced technology, it turns out that cryptocurrency can get surprisingly low-tech. Imagine waking up one morning to find that the internet is down, not because the Wi-Fi has been disconnected. Instead, your government has pulled the plug. You have no idea when it'll be back online, and in the meantime, you're cut off from life as you know it, ranging from contact with loved ones abroad to paying for anything by card. Since society isn't big on keeping cash these days, and ATMs stock up on only so much paper money at a time, chances are you'll have to sidestep or engage in a few fistfights if you're to put up a meal on the table. Since Bitcoin is itself a form of digital currency, it takes a good amount of pre-planning to set up a transaction, but in theory, it could still operate even when conventional options are forcefully removed from the equation. And there's a tweet here from Jason A. Williams that says, what do Greeks, Cypriots, Venezuelans, Argentinians, Brazilians, Zimbabweans, and Ukrainians have in common? They all woke up one day and the banks were shuttered and capital controls were put in place to avoid an economic collapse. Bitcoin doesn't close. While most of us will hopefully never experience a dystopian world of intermittent internet, the productivity sages remind us that a failure to plan is planning to fail. Knowing how to transact with cryptocurrency in a chaotic world is the sort of knowledge that might just come in handy one day, and in the meantime, will make you the most interesting guest at a dinner party. Depending on the political stability of your geographic location, learning how to send Bitcoin without internet could be nothing more than a fun Saturday afternoon science project. Then again, it could provide the way out of a tight spot one day, whether it's transferring funds to a buddy stuck in the middle of the ocean or bribing a zombie to feast on the coins stored in your brain wallet instead of devouring your brain. Okay. 2014 saw the earliest mentions of Bitcoin being sent via the airwaves. Ham radio coin, like Hamradal coin. Ham radio coin was one of the very early vanity altcoins geared at the ham radio industry. While it wasn't entirely clear why said niche industry needed a dedicated currency, its current $794 market cap, unchanged since May 2017, adds to crypto's rich historical arsenal of questionable coins. Yeah, I'd say if it's only $794 in market cap. But the idea is marrying Marconi and Satoshi was bound to lead to more useful experiments. A step in the right direction saw Finnish company Vertaisvaluuta.fi propose the creation of a P2P half-duplex CB ham radio cryptocurrency, also in Finland. Crypto Radio partnered with a national broadcaster to pilot a cryptocurrency data transmission system that broadcasts Bitcoin transactions, blocks, and currency exchange data via national DVB-T television networks in real time. The project failed to launch its commercial phase, with founder Joel Liitonen explaining, quote, "The project raised huge audience, and there has been some serious commercial interest, but nothing I am really interested in because they would destroy the original idea of crypto radio, distributing the Bitcoin ledger autonomously without internet connectivity." Come 2018, there was a new experiment in town. Ingredients: Brooklyn-based Gotenna, a mobile long-ranging off-grid consumer mesh network, and Bitcoin privacy wallet Samurai Wallet. A New Zealand developer transported crypto from a distance of 12.6 kilometers away entirely offline using only a network-disconnected Android phone and 4 portable antennas. Though, as his Twitter recently acknowledges, it took one heck of a prep, including setting up relay stations. And it's got the tweet from him. This says, over the weekend, I sent Bitcoin transaction to a relay 12.6 kilometers away with no cell network or internet connection. Here's a tweet storm about how I used Gotenna and Samurai Wallet to do it. Fast forward to this year, and in perhaps the most simplistic effort yet, CoinKite founder Rodolfo Novak managed to move Bitcoin some 600 kilometers away from Toronto, Canada, to OpenBazaar co-founder Sam Patterson in Michigan, USA. And in that moment, Bitcoin by Sky went international. In 2017, computer scientist Nick Szabo and PhD researcher Elaine O delved into the topic at Stanford's Scaling Bitcoin conference, introducing a research project that proposed tethering Bitcoin to radio broadcast to secure consensus proof using weak signal radio propagation. There's some links to the event there. With Novak,
this is fascinating.
Yeah, with Novak and Patterson's latest feat, crypto Twitter went wild. Szabo, showing that he's still a firm proponent of taking Bitcoin skyward, chimed in to congratulate the duo for a successful send-off that not even a snowstorm could stop. Another tweet there. How to send Bitcoin by radio. As Novak and Patterson have illustrated, you don't need to overload on gear or make space for satellite storage in your backyard to send Bitcoin by air. Accompanying an SDR ham on this quest was nothing more than a 40M 7 megahertz antenna and the JS8 call application. While the setup seems simple enough, quote, or in parentheses, Google ham radio for beginners for a primer, in practice, this is probably not something you'll dive into unless you're just messing around, or in real life, stuff gets real. In truth, there are restrictions aplenty when it comes to sending Bitcoin by radio. First off, legalities. To stay on the right side of the law, some countries require you be a licensed ham operator, and even though you're unable to send any encrypted messages or use the airwaves for commercial purposes unless so licensed. At this point, it's not clear yet which government task force will join the SEC and company in clamping down on illegal apocalyptic Bitcoin via radio transactions. Since legal restrictions... You got something to say about that?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just working through this in my head here.
Okay. Since legal restrictions is the mother of all invention, Novak and Patterson circumvented this by broadcasting their experimental non-commercial wallet encryption send-off via public cipher. Then there's prepping it all. For this to be a viable, albeit last resort solution in an actual nail-bite situation, sender and receiver would have to set it up all in advance. Novak and Patterson were able to execute their experiment by communicating and collaborating in lieu of the transfer using a brain wallet. The brain wallet, which is simply storing your mnemonic recovery phrase in your brain, is not to be confused with the recent, more nefarious version, the death wallet, popularized by CEO Gerald Cotton, who took the keys to Quadriga's crypto kingdom to his grave. That's the Canadian exchange that basically stole everyone's cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Thus, if you're going to use this as a backup plan for when this hits the fan, stuff hits the fan, you'd better secure a right-hand wool man and a foolproof project management blueprint while things are still web-friendly. If this process seems as though it walked off the pages of a James Bond novel, yes, it's decidedly more involved than a mere inter-wallet send-off. However, if you're gung-ho on testing out alternative Bitcoin transports, don't let the naysayers stop you. Yours might well be the next proof of concept that interweb is waiting for. The blog Better Off Bitcoin for One offers a run-through protocol tutorial. Goes into scalability is a big bottleneck.
This is kind of a lot of stuff.
There's
here.
A lot of information.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, we won't go through all of it there.
Bitcoin person, and I mean there he goes. The interesting part about this is, of course, the Bitcoin haters out there is like, oh, if the internet goes away, then all your money goes away. Yeah, well, if the internet goes away, all your dollars go away too. And
yeah.
Your Illuminati green pieces of paper won't be worth anything when a marauder has a axe fashioned from a car bumper to your neck. But this is a very interesting step forward in the Bitcoin if internet goes down thing. And I was gonna be a little complaining about, on ham radio, if you're trying to transmit Bitcoin stuff via that, it'll be pretty much open to anybody who wants to receive those signals. But that's how the blockchain works anyways. It's all public. So it doesn't make much of a difference.
Especially this kitties.
Cat. Yeah, this kitty has been climbing up all over the place while you're reading this.
Let me finish this out here with the last couple paragraphs here. Bitcoin might have been invented on the internet for the internet, but it can straddle both the digital and analog worlds. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin walk the line between money under the mattress and cash in the bank. As these trailblazers show, Bitcoin can straddle those worlds not only functionally, but also technically. Thanks to the efforts of the pioneers profiled here, crypto has shown it can survive in even the most challenging environments. Sending Bitcoin by radio isn't quite carrier pigeon, but in tech terms, it might as well be, which, says crypto developer John Villar, is, quote, probably the most low end you can get before smoke signaling a brain wallet, which is another way to say using smoke signals to send a private key over long distances, which that might have its own interesting... which, yeah, you could do. But there you go. That's no internet, no problem.
Ham radio lessons, Gons.
I know, and I think in California it's a little bit harder to get a license nowadays.
Because that's when the world ends, we're gonna have to do the show over ham radio, anyways.
I know, and I'm gonna have to ping off of your device if I can even get there.
You're gonna have to connect to my relay tower because California won't let you have one.
I know, they're gonna lock us down. But there you go. That's all we got for today, and hopefully you learned something.
Yeah, lots of learning to be done around here. All right. Wow, another long show. We just keep coming out with the hits, man. All right, folks. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Let's see here, Gons. Let me tell you when we're going to circle back here. We're going to be circling back on March 24th. That's this Wednesday.
Circle back. But I'll have to circle back.
There we go. Love it. All right. Sounds good. So, yeah, be back here March 24th. That's on Wednesday. Remember, folks, if you don't catch the live broadcast, we always post the episode on our RSS feed. That's a fancy name for podcast feed. Go ahead and search for Canary Cry News Talk on your favorite podcast player. That is that's sort of the in-between point between the live show and the ham radio apocalypse version of the show. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. The audio is actually much better on the podcast because we don't have to deal with all the live shenanigans. So go ahead and do that. And remember, we will need some producers for Wednesday's show. So maybe you've been thinking about becoming a producer. Maybe you've produced before. Maybe you're working your way up to the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames. Whatever the case may be, pray about it and please consider becoming a producer of next show, which will be episode 315. And you can do that by heading over to patreon.com/CCNT. That's patreon.com/CCNT. Or if you don't like Patreon, that's okay. Make sure to head on over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. canarycryradio.com/support. So many options to support the show. Become a producer. We can't do it without you. I do want to thank today's producers for episode 314. Producers Jen T, James H, Kimberly W, Malik, Saul, David M, especially our executive producer Elizabeth S, and Sir Jason, Knight of the Anti-Foobar, and of course, producer Michael C, coming in with the Crypto Associate Executive Producer position. We thank you guys so much. Make sure to thank these folks, because without them, the show couldn't focus. I want to thank Jade Bouncerson for the timestamps. And if you're out there and you're looking for a way to help produce the show, get involved. Go ahead and email jadebouncerson@gmail.com to get involved with the timestamps. A very, very valuable service that producer Jade Bouncerson provides. It's the timestamps when you visit the YouTube video and, you want to, what was that one thing they were talking about? What was, instead of having to scroll through the whole video, you can just click on the timestamps. And someday when we upgrade to podcasting 2.0, that will also be built right into your podcast app. So there you go. jadebouncerson@gmail.com. Of course, a big old thank you to all of our jingle makers and our artists, always contributing very valuable content to the show as well. Now, here's the thing, folks. A couple of things that you can do to support the show if supporting financially or artistically is not in the cards for you. If you haven't done it yet, leave a rating and a review for the show. It's very important. Again, it's hard to explain, but algorithms require us to have a continuous stream of ratings and reviews, or else it hides us and nobody will ever find us again. So if you haven't done it yet, please head over to Apple Podcasts and search for Canary Cry News Talk. Leave a rating and a review. You're not going to regret it. And we'll be reading ratings and reviews on Friday. It's always a fun time. And it's a great way to, Gons and I read all of them, so it's a good way to get a message across, as long as it's positive. Give us those 5 stars, baby. Also, you can help out the show by sharing it. Share an episode out on your social media. Put it on your tweeters. Put it on your Facebooks. Put it on your Perlers. Whatever it is, share it out. It's hard enough to find new podcasts. I mean, for me, I'm always looking for new shows. And when somebody I trust or somebody who I know makes a recommendation, I'm much more likely to try it out than if it's just suggested by the algorithms. So go ahead and share the show. And, if you got friends, you got family, they're all starting to wake up to the fact that the world is not what it seems, send an episode to them. We like to call it rattling their cage. And if you need any more instructions, here's what you do. You walk right up to them, you grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Okay, Gons, any last words?
In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart. I have overcome the world.
Whoa.
John 16:33. Words of Jesus, not mine. I didn't overcome the world. He did.
You know what? You know what occurred to me? I was thinking about Jen Psaki and circling back.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's some sort of spell as well.
Oh,
circles, circling back. Yeah, so maybe circle back and witchcraft go together. All right, folks. Speaking of that, we're going to be circling back on Wednesday, March 24th.
Okay.
We're gonna have to figure out when we're going to be playing that jingle. What the cue is for that jingle.
I already have the background end of show mix going. Okay, well, let's try it.
Circle back, but I'll have to circle back.
It kind of clashes with the...
I get the clash. Yeah, right, who knows? Okay. We'll see. We'll figure it out. All right, folks. Circle back on Wednesday, March 24th for another episode. But thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!